Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show. The show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 68 of the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show for October 2022. My name is Jonathan Leung. I'm the producer, director, and editor here at the Arcade Repair Tips blog. And joining me today, as always, is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, Tim Peterson. He made it, guys! Round of applause.
Well, it was finally here, right?
Right, exactly. So we had to wait on Tim a little bit. You got hung up, so that happens.
Well, you forget to factor in school bus routes, all that kind of stuff. Just took me a little longer than expected today. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. We're just glad you're here, Tim. I'm speaking for all the live chat, at least.
Okay.
I'm glad you're here, because that means I don't have to do a show by myself, which is really important. So, but we are glad that you are here as well, and we do want to apologize for the delay. Hopefully it won't hold you back too much. Tim, we are going to run into football. We were going to run into football anyway.
Yeah.
For those of you guys who are watching Thursday Night Football. Tim, have you had any problems watching Thursday Night Football? I hear a lot of people griping because it's on Prime Video now.
Well, I have Prime Video, so I haven't had any issues watching it. Having time to watch it has been my issue lately. So, and there hadn't been any really good matchups that I just really wanted to see yet.
I understand. Well, hopefully you're not having problems watching that, but we would rather you watch this here tonight with us. We're glad that you're here. We did have a couple of little things going on during the live chat, Tim, during our little delay, if you will, and so I did want to kind of address those before we get into the rest of the show. We had Jumping General says his original Galaxian monitor has problems, and he was told that putting a cap kit would be difficult. He was told to replace it with another Wells Garner 19-inch. I like original games. Any thoughts? Now, Real Hammer Billy Lee chimed in, which we appreciate, and said doing a cap kit isn't very difficult. And there are many places you can send the chassis off. And Tim, that's exactly right, correct? So you can send that chassis off to repair. I noticed that Real Hammer Billy Lee mentioned Arcade Buffett and Sharp Image Repair, which is Enrique. Both places that are really great to send your monitor off to. We would also add Chad at arcadecup.com to that list, as well as our friend Paul from paulsmonders.com. So Paul Giray does a really good job with repair as well. So, I mean, any of those places are really good. Here's the thing, though, Tim. Cap kits are not very difficult as far as repair goes, right?
No, it's probably easier to do a cap kit most of the time than it is to replace the monitor. It really doesn't take that long, and it's a kind of a good beginner repair. You don't have to have a lot of skills as long as you can solder, or you've had a little bit of experience. It's not real difficult to do, and it's a great way to save those older monitors and stuff like he talked about. Keeping it original, it's one of the best things that you can do.
Absolutely, and that's what we're going to be talking about that a little later. Tim, we've got a question about that concerning a Phoenix arcade machine, so hopefully you guys will stay tuned for that. But in Jumping General's case here, Tim, we don't really know what's going on with the monitor. So, right. Jumping General, if you could tell us what kind of symptoms your monitor is experiencing, we could probably tell you better if a cap kit is really what you need. You may not need a cap kit. You may need something else. And so if you'd let us know what issue the monitor is experiencing, we could give you a little bit better input on that. Plus, you may know the model. I don't know if you do or not, but if you know the make and model, that always helps as well. So, but again, you can always ship it off to one of the many people that we recommend for arcade monitor repair. There are several, Tim, and you can find most of those people on our resources page at arcaderepairtips.com/resources. So, okay, Tim. Well, I think we're done with all the stuff. We kind of already covered a question. Look at that. That was that fast. We do want to remind you, before we get into the outline, though, that you can interact with us in the live chat by leaving your comments and questions there. Tim, it's always nice when we have a lot of people here, and we definitely have a good audience here tonight, it looks like. We got Silly Sausage 72 is here. We have Jumping General, who we mentioned before, who asked a question. We got YouTube Punk in the house, Tim. Real Hammer Billy Lee is here, of course. Let's see. Am I missing anybody so far? Javi Jitters is here, Tim. We have him here as well. And I think that is everybody.
Welcome, you guys.
Welcome, guys. We're so glad to have you here tonight, and we hope that you will enjoy this presentation of the Arcade Repair Tips live show that we have for you. So, okay, well, let me say this. Obviously, you're a little late, Tim. How are you doing otherwise? Is everything going good? I should say that before we get into this.
Well, it's always good. Life in general just seems to, every time you think you're going to slow down, it just seems to ramp up. We had a plumbing issue at the house that we couldn't hardly figure out.
Yeah, we've had the same thing.
So hopefully my bill's going to be a lot less. I think I found out why it's been quite a bit. We had a leak out in the yard, and just random tree branch went into our water pipe.
Oh my goodness!
And so just odd stuff. But you know what? Life really is good. I mean, everybody has those same type of struggles. We talk about it, John. Everybody kind of goes through something, but as long as you're, as my dad used to say, I'm above the ground and I'm, my family's fine, health is good, life is good. So, other than just being busy, I took a trip we'll talk about later. I got another trip coming up, so looks like about every 5 or 6 weeks I'm going to be doing quite a bit of traveling, and all over the country. So would love to, I'll try to announce those as much as possible, like getting to meet Paul at one time. And if I'm ever in your area, please reach out. I'd love to find an arcade near you and hang out or do something, grab some food or a beer or something. That would be cool. So anyway, just everything's going okay. Just trugging along, finally getting school started, getting into that routine around our house, is a big deal. And but I feel good. Everything just common issues, but we just get past them and keep going and enjoying life. Seems like I'm really enjoyed traveling some and meeting some new people in a lot of different places.
That's good, Tim. And he sent me a video saying that you'd hit a lot of Dunkin' Donuts where you were. There's a teaser for where he was. Tim, I'm a huge fan.
I think I've ate quite a few while I was there, too. Yeah.
Love Dunkin'. Our Dunkin' Donuts here is very inconsistent. We've talked about this, unfortunately. Right. So sometimes you get like a really good barista. Coffee's really good. Sometimes you don't. Right. So, but you see, we have one Dunkin' Donuts and we have like 15 Starbucks is how it works here. So, sometimes I just end up with Starbucks. Anyway, enough about coffee. I love coffee. Did I mention that?
All right.
I'm a computer programmer. Coffee. That's like something that we do. Dunkin' coffee is my favorite, Tim. But, sometimes if Starbucks is close, I got to do Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. But anyway.
It's all good.
There you go. Oh, Tex JYT is here as well. Cyborg 2000 is here as well. Welcome, guys.
Some of you guys are pretty new. I don't recognize some of the names. If y'all don't mind, just shout out where you're from. Yep. I think we always like to recognize
name and town,
different places that you're from. Even some of you regulars, some of the new guys may not know you. So thank you guys for joining tonight. Looks like we've got quite a few new names I haven't recognized before.
Absolutely. So, okay, Tim. I think we got all the pleasantries out of the way.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to the outline. And the first question we have here is from John. And John says, I need help, please. I purchased a Cinematronics World Series this season, and I can't get into the service menu. I followed the manual's instructions. It's on free play. Is there a different way to get to the service menu? Now, Tim, this is a game that we don't see very often.
No, it's a pretty rare game.
I was going to say, a game that a lot of people remember very fondly because, I've heard, it seems like over the last couple of weeks, for some reason, I've heard this game mentioned quite a bit. And it's like a lot of people have very fond memories of it, and I understand that. But Tim, we have John here who's having a hard time getting into the service menu for this game. And so it does have a little bit different procedure for that, correct?
Right. It's kind of a sequence of stuff. It's kind of not the average you open up and hit the service button and you're right there.
Right.
And that's kind of common for some of those. I wouldn't call it necessarily a rare game, but it's not very well known, as well known as like Pac-Man or something like that. So I know you're going to bring up a slide, John. If you want to, you can actually go ahead and bring it up because you did such a good job on researching this. So going into the service menu is different, like you said, from other games. You got to hold down the player one start button while pressing the service button inside the corridor. Then release the player one start button. The game should enter the service menu.
Yeah, so this is a little tricky, right?
It's kind of like getting extra men on a Nintendo game or something. Like you got to go up, down, left, right, right, or something. So it's not just that simple. But once you get in there, then you should be able to. Now, assuming he read that in his book or the manual, he had the manual. So if it wasn't working when you tried it, then there's probably something wrong with the wiring to one of your buttons.
Right.
So you need to double check all the way back to your harness and make sure that there's not a wiring issue. Because I'm assuming even though that is difficult, it's not that hard to read and follow instructions. But he may have just missed it too. So either way, do those instructions, and John will post it back up here in a second again. But it could be a wiring issue that's not recognizing one of those buttons being pressed, or a start button or a service button not working. Sometimes is a ground issue or something wrong with the button itself.
Yeah, and Tim, in this particular case, I think we'd have to look at the service switch first. More than likely, your player one start button is probably working if you're able to play the game.
Right, you're able to play it.
Right,
Good
exactly.
call.
So you're probably okay. You still want to check it to make sure, but I think definitely checking the wiring on the service button is going to be what you want to do in this particular case. I will bring the slide back up so we can kind of read that part. If this is not working, so if you try the procedure that Tim just outlined, it's not working, it could be that your player one start or service button is having a connection or switch issue. Now, you want to double check all the wiring going to both buttons, make sure that their connection to the board is good. And then you can test this and the button switches using the continuity check setting on your multimeter, right, Tim?
Yes.
So that is very important. Tim, we have a multimeter right here if you would like to demonstrate this for everybody.
Right.
So I know we talk about this a lot, guys. We don't always show this. If you've seen our video or our post on checking fuses with a multimeter, it's basically the exact same thing, but this allows you to check the wiring as well that way to make sure that you're getting a connection all the way through. I think you got it there, Tim. You want to try it real quick?
Yeah.
It may have a mode. Try it. Okay, there we go.
Okay. So, yeah, you got to go into your ohm meter. You're checking your ohms, but it's nice you find the one that has the sound or look like echo waves flowing out. And by turning that on, you'll put one side of the wire here and one side there.
Oh, hang on.
And if it, we'll demonstrate it live. So you're going to put one side here on the wire.
The other one's not stripped, so I don't know if it's going to work very good. We'll try.
Yeah, we'll try this wire right here. And then you would touch it to the other side right there.
Yeah, I was about to say. That end's not stripped.
Yeah.
If you get it up in there, you may be able to do it.
Yeah, so I think did we hit the wrong button?
No, I still have it, I think. Oh, hang on. There it is.
Okay, so here it is. So we're going to go here and here. If I've got continuity, it's going to beep like that. And then when I let go, so you're going to check the wire at the button and also check it back here at the harness and make sure that you've got continuity there.
Continuity is very important. We use our multimeter to do everything. And Tim, I think you have a saying about that. Trust your eye, or trust the meter, don't trust your eyes.
Don't trust your eyes. Everything, a lot of wires look good. You can't always see the little tiny breaks and stuff in there. So you want to trust your meter and go with what it says. Now, not all of them beep. Some of them just go to 0 on the ohms, and that's okay. You're looking for the resistance, there to be solid. And so you can use either method, but it sure is handy just to listen to a beep. You don't really have to be even watching the meter. You can just set it down and touch it, and you hear it beep, you're good.
It really depends on the type of meter that you have. We always try to buy meters, Tim, that do have the continuity beep test, but some do not. And so, like if you're using the free Harbor Freight guide, then obviously you don't have the beep test in
maybe
there.
Not.
Right, but most meters above that level typically will have a continuity beep test built in.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
Yeah, so there you go. So anything else for John here before we move on to?
No, John, just let us know. Any update would be glad. I would be really interested to hear. If your wiring is good and you're still not able to, then maybe you have some kind of logic problem with your board, but that would be probably really rare and probably a last resort, but a possibility, so let us know what's going on still.
And something, you do want to check that switch as well, Tim. Service switches seem to die all the time. It seems to be the one button that dies more than any other. And a lot of times they put a cheap button switch in there just because they know that you're not going to be touching it a whole lot.
Right.
And so you want to do the continuity on the button switch as well, just to make sure that you've got a good connection there too. So hopefully, John, answered your question, and good luck getting into the test mode of your Cinematronics World Series, the season game. And yes, you do adjust the free play through that menu. We didn't say that up front, but that's where you adjust the coin and free play settings is in the service menu. So
right. So obviously somebody's been in there before.
Right, exactly. So somebody changed it at some point. It's just a matter of you getting in there now to do the same. Okay, Tim, it looks like we've got a question from Q's Mod Shop. I'm glad to catch a live stream. Do you have any advice for someone who's restoring a machine with no monitor? I have been trying to see if I can put an old 4x3 monitor in the machine with a VGA board. So, Tim, Q's Mod Shop here has a cabinet, no monitor. Right. What would you suggest for Q's Mod Shop here in order to get this game up and running?
Well, it depends on the game and what you're rebuilding. Let's say, what kind of game is it? Does he say?
He does not say at this point.
Okay, tell us what kind of game you want it to be. If you're going for a more modern game, I would go ahead and put an LCD in there, and I would put in one that is made for arcade games, like we talk about. And
commercial grade arcade quality.
Yes. It won't have the back on it that you normally would see on your TV. It'll have a metal casing or something. And a mounting
frame, typically.
And a mounting frame, some way to install it. That will save you, number one, a lot of time. It'll also last a lot longer inside of your cabinet. So getting a commercial arcade-style video game LCD screen from like Hap Controls, or if you want to go to Holland Computers, where we show in our videos where we bought one before and put it into one.
Twisted Quarter has a really great selection for good prices.
They do.
And they're okay now, Tim.
Yeah.
I know that they're in Florida. A lot of people you know, so they were they were having issues with the end, but I noticed on their Facebook page that they say they're up and running again. So,
that's awesome.
I'm glad to hear that they were not affected that much by the hurricane. We love Twisted Quarter and all the products that they offer, so I'm glad to hear that they're okay, Tim.
Very
so
good.
You can order from Twisted Quarter if you'd like to do that. They have really good prices on those commercial grade arcade quality LCDs for sure. He says it's a Neo Geo, so something a little bit more modern.
Yeah, I would think with a Neo Geo you wouldn't technically necessarily have to have that classic look or the grainy type, that almost looks
the CRT scan
the CR scan lines. Sometimes sometimes I'll look at a Gallagher or something on an LCD and it almost looks too good.
Right.
It doesn't look like I remember. So on something like that, I would definitely probably go with an arcade style LCD.
Now, the only thing I would say about that, Tim, is that the bigger LCDs are kind of expensive. So if you're going with that like 27-inch LCD, if it's a 25-inch cabinet, you need a 27-inch LCD. Typically, you're looking around that $300 or $400 range. Now, sometimes you can catch them on sale for a little bit cheaper, but they can get a little on the pricey side to get a new one. So, if you wanted to go like the TV and VGA board route, that's fine. The only thing is that there is usually a little bit of a delay in that, right, Tim?
Right. Also, considering the price that you're going to have to get a bezel that fits that monitor, whatever kind of monitor you get, so that you don't see big gaps and stuff around there. Of course, we've had all kinds of ways that we've done that on the cheap, and we've done it real professional too. So whatever your budget is, just be aware that you're going to have something to shroud that with also.
Now, over here, and I know you guys can't see it because it's kind of off camera, there is a Street Fighter 2 champion. It has a marquee for Street Fighter 2. It's actually got a multi-game board in it, but it has a Wells Garner 27-inch LCD in it, Tim, which is fantastic, by the way.
Right.
So Wells Garner still makes monitors, and they still make very good monitors. They are very expensive. So, I mean, you could go with something like that, though. It looks fantastic in your game. Or if you could find a traditional 25-inch, you could always go that route. But we've talked about this before, Tim. Finding CRTs nowadays can be difficult. They do make 27 inches, though, that are pretty regularly found, right?
Right.
Tim? So you could try a 27-inch, but sometimes those Neo Geo cabinets can't accommodate that. So you'd have to make sure, measure your cabinet, see if you could do that. But 27-inch CRTs are still expensive. So, I mean, you're probably looking $500 plus shipping, in a lot of cases.
And heavy.
And heavy, correct. So there you go. So Q-Spot Shop, it's really up to you as to how you want to go. But with the Neo Geo, I think, like Tim mentioned, going LCD is not such a bad route, especially if you don't have a monitor now that you can fix or repair. So let's see. Jumping General is chiming back in about his Galaxian, Tim. He says, the Galaxian game has no sound, but played a game. Now the monitor is dead. Power supply is testing at 5 volts. A Sylvania monitor brand. So, Sylvania monitor is the tube.
The tube brand,
so we have a Sylvania monitor tube in there.
Uh-huh.
Power supply seems to be testing well. You're saying the Galaxian game had no sound but played a game. Is it still like that? Now you won't be able to tell if it's playing blind because you can't get the sound, right, Tim?
Right.
So that's kind of a challenge right there. If we assume that the board is still working and that the monitor just went out, then you're probably looking at something in the high voltage section of your monitor chassis, right, Tim?
Probably so.
So we have a whole video on troubleshooting games that are playing blind. It may not be your particular model, but the concepts that we talk about in that video kind of would go along with the problem you're having with your monitor. And so what you might want to do is check out that video. If you can get us a chassis make and model, which would be typically Wells Garner, Electro Home, Geo7, anything else, Tim, that's pretty common. You may have you may have like a newer Sharp Image in there or something like that as well.
You can basically you could just take a couple good pictures and send to us if you're not sure, and we'll help you determine what you have.
Absolutely. So questions at arcaderepairtips.com. If you want to send those via email to that place, you can do that, and we'll be happy to identify that monitor for you. So and that will give you an idea. Tim, for that type of repair, monitor wise, you have any idea what like Paul or somebody would charge for a high voltage issue?
I would say anywhere, it depending on the parts, just like anything, and everything is kind of going up I would say anywhere from $100, depending if it was simple, to up to $250.
Right, so that's what you'd be looking at for a repair. You may have some shipping charges in there as well. We'd probably send it off to Paul Giray at paulsmonitors.com. Would probably be the best place to send it off to, because he's pretty reasonable, and he's very familiar with those older style 19-inch monitors like that. So if you want to go that route, that's not a bad route to go. Of course, like I said, we can also help you tackle it if you get us the make and model of whatever your chassis is as well. So anything else there, Tim?
Yeah, just to differentiate, the Sylvania is the tube part. They all made tubes. Same tube that probably went in a lot of TVs at that time. The chassis part is the electronics part that plugs into and sits around below the tube or on the sides and stuff. That's what we need to find out. That's what kind of monitor you have specifically would be that chassis or electronics part to get a cap kit for.
Right. I mean, when we're talking about shipping off your monitor for repair, we're really just talking about shipping off that circuit board, that chassis. Yeah. So we have a video on removing and installing a monitor chassis, Tim, that you can watch, or chassis, sometimes as we call it, Tim. Right. So chassis, removing and installing it, that video will kind of show you the process behind that. And you do want to make sure that you discharge the monitor as well, which for most people who are new to this, that's the most daunting part, right, Tim?
For sure.
Because we do want to make sure there's no voltage going to the tube when we're working with it. And so we do need to discharge the tube in order to get the anode off of it. And so that's important for when we ship it. So make sure you check out our videos on discharging an arcade monitor, safely discharging an arcade monitor, and removing and installing a monitor chassis. Both those will show you exactly what you need to do in order to ship your monitor off for repair. So, okay, Tim, I think we're caught up. So let us move on in the outline to Mike. And Mike says, "Hello. Let me start by saying that any help would be greatly appreciated.
Right.
Okay, here's my question. I have a Mega Touch Crown Edition, and I'm having a problem with the monitor. It isn't working now. The tube is working, just no picture. Is there any suggestions for my problem, or somewhere I can get a diagram for it? Once again, thank you for your help, Mike." Now, Tim, Mike sent a picture, and basically what was happening was that the monitor, like, he would plug it in, and the monitor would kind of go bright and show a bright screen for just a second and then go off.
Okay.
Like real quick.
So it's collapsing really fast.
Or having problems with the high voltage to where it's kicking in for a second and then just going down. And so there's obviously something going on with Mike's monitor here, Tim. What advice can you give us about Mike's monitor that could help him out?
Okay, well, yeah, what you're describing sounds more like a problem in the high voltage section of the monitor. So we would check the AC voltage from the wall, going all the way through his cabinet, and making sure that there's not an AC problem somewhere. It's not just dying or something in the middle. Your game should be playing blind, which means that even with the monitor when it brightens up and then goes away, you should still be able to coin it up, and you should still hear the game. You won't see it, but you should be able to hear it.
And if I may interject for just a second, Tim, the touch screen should still work.
Correct.
So, I mean, even with the monitor, without the monitor screen on, a lot of times the touchscreen will still get power.
Right.
And so the touchscreen overlay should still be working, even if the monitor's not.
So if you're kind of playing it, but you can't see it, that's why we call it playing blind. It's almost like you're playing with your eyes closed. Then you'll know that you have a monitor issue. Otherwise, you could have some other issues, not sending signal or something to your monitor, just shutting down, depending on the style and kind of monitor that you have. But more than likely, if you're playing blind and you hear it and stuff, but you're not seeing any picture, then there is something shutting down that high voltage area of your monitor, and that's where we would start to troubleshoot and work in on that. Again, we would, same as questions before, we would need to know what kind of monitor that you had based on the chassis that it's attached to it, and then it might be time for either you to look into doing a repair, or that you could send it off for repair if you're kind of new, and that sometimes is the easiest route.
So just like Tim mentioned with checking the voltage up to the monitor, you can also check the voltage through the monitor. Through the monitor,
sure.
So if we're not, like, when it comes on and shuts off, let's check the B+ voltage and see where it's at. Okay, and that'll tell us whether or not we're getting voltage up to that point. Okay, and that's very important, because if we're not getting it there, then we know that the problem is somewhere before that. If we know that we're getting it there, then somewhere after that, kind of thing. So very important to try that. You can always check it through the monitor as well, through the monitor chassis as well. And like Tim mentioned, if you get us the make and model of your chassis, we can definitely help you out further with your issues. So Tim, I'm going to go ahead and throw up the outline here so people can see. And this is the picture of what it looked like when it would flash and then go off. So based on the video you sent, it looks like your monitor is coming on for a second, then going right off. This would usually mean there's a problem, like Tim mentioned, with the high voltage section of the monitor. Before suspecting that, however, try checking your AC voltage starting at the wall, going through your cabinet. Make sure that your AC voltage is not dying somewhere between your cabinet and the monitor. Also, your game should play blind, like Tim mentioned. If it's just a monitor issue, try to see if you can play the game with the monitor blank. This will eliminate the possibility of a board issue. And that's, Tim, what we're always trying to differentiate is the problem with the board? Is it with the monitor? Where is the problem in the game? And so we want to eliminate a board issue if we can. Let's see if the game is playing blind. That way we know for a fact we have a monitor issue.
Oh, great.
So, and if you need further help, Mike, we would highly recommend you send either pictures or let us know the make and model of your monitor chassis so we can give you better advice on how to do that repair. Tim, the monitors that are in a lot of these MegaTouch systems are very similar to the arcade monitors that we deal with.
Very similar.
Cabinets. In fact, the same models. A lot of times they just have a overlay on the front that usually hooks to the board via serial, USB, or some other method. So, and like I said, so a lot of times the touchscreen will still work.
Yes.
Because it's being powered from the board. It's not being powered from the monitor.
Correct.
And so as long as the board is working and getting power, your touchscreen overlay should work. So, Mike, hopefully that answers your question. Tim, do you have anything else here for Mike before?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, if you have anything else, Mike, please email us back. Let us know a couple more details, and we'll try to help you out further with your issue. And Tim, we just got a donation from TextJYT. He said, just did a full cap kit and flyback on a Wellsgarn 7000. Looks brand new now. Easy process. Awesome. Glad to hear it. And thank you so much for your donation. We appreciate it. Remember, guys, if you would like to make a donation, you can hit the little money sign down in the live chat room. That's called the super chat button, Tim.
Okay.
You can donate through there. If you'd rather make a donation through another method, you can go to arcaderepairtips.com/donate. And we will be happy to take any donations you would like to give us. It all goes into doing stuff here, paying for whatever fun things that we have for arcade repair. And Tim, while we're talking about this, should we give away something?
I think so.
All these nice people were here before you were,
right?
So I think it's only fair.
Anybody that waited around should get a prize tonight.
That's right,
at
exactly.
least a chance at it.
Right. I think it's only fair that we should give away something. Now, Tim, the last couple of months we've given away kind of more fun stuff. So, like 2 months ago we gave away the Karate Champ Mini Arcade.
Right.
Last month we gave away the Pac-Man Monopoly. Is that what it was? Like Pac-Man arcade game Monopoly. Well, Tim, this month we're giving away something arcade repair related.
Okay, so it's not the ball from Aaron Judge hit, right?
No. Neither one of us caught that, unfortunately. And if I did, I wouldn't give it to you guys. I may just give you a small portion of what it's worth. Somebody already offered that guy $2 million.
$2 million. That's crazy.
Well, it's worth at least that. So,
yeah, I guess so.
No, we have some arcade repair related giveaways tonight. And so what we have here is a soldering iron kit. I'll let Tim be Vanna. And I'll show him. And an AC voltage detector. Check it out. So here you go.
All right.
So there you go. So you may be asking yourself, what do I have to do to win these nice giveaway items? All you have to do is send an email to contest@arcaderepairtips.com, contest@arcaderepairtips.com, and make sure that you send your mailing address with it. We will not share those with anybody, Tim. We always keep those private, but we need to know where to send the prize if you win it. And Tim, we have had other people win over the last couple of months, so hopefully you guys, some of you guys who won, please let us know. But contest@arcaderepairtips.com, and we will select a winner at random, and you will receive a soldering iron kit and an AC voltage detector. Tim,
I would show you to them, but they're sealed.
They are brand new. So these are very handy, Tim, for when you just want to check AC. Like, let's say you turned off a breaker, and you're like, I just want to make sure that breaker is off, which is very important. Then you can take this to your plug or to an outlet or something like that and test really fast whether or not you have AC voltage there. Like I said, Tim, we have flipped a number of breakers in our time, hooking up, plugging in arcade games and
trying
stuff.
to figure out which breaker's which.
Exactly. So this thing comes in very handy for that. And of course, Tim, who could be an arcade repair technician without one of these?
Right.
A soldering iron kit, right? Now, this is not high dollar, guys. This is kind of a cheapie, but this is a great starter iron. It does come with multiple tips. You're going to get 3 tips in here, Tim.
Okay.
So, but here's the deal. I love this kind of soldering iron for putting in my toolbox. So when we go places, I have it with me.
Yeah.
I
just
don't
keep it in the car.
We use the Weller when we're here at the shop. Okay. Right. But if I'm on the go, I can't. It's hard to take the Weller along with us, right? Yeah. Tim? It's got that big old box on it. Very hard to lug around sometimes. This
it's not in a case.
Right. Exactly. This kind of just plug into the wall, let it heat up, and then solder something. Very easy to do. Again, if you want to win these two things, contest at arcaderepairtips.com, shipping address in there and name so we know where to send it to, and we will pick a winner at random after the show, and we will ship it to you.
We don't do anything with your email address or your address. We're just going to do it for contest purposes only, and then we discard.
That is correct. So, absolutely. So, we're not giving you information. We're not selling your information, I promise. So, it all stays in my inbox. That's the only place it ever goes. So things may be different if I pass away. I don't know, but I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. So my wife, I'll make sure she keeps all your information.
Okay,
private, so.
Thanks.
Now, Tim, before I move on, you asked people to chime in from where they're from.
Yes. Okay.
So I want to go back through here and see some of the places where people are from.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So Tex JYT says Allen, Texas.
Okay.
I used to live in Allen.
Right.
So I lived in Allen. I went to kindergarten in Allen, Tim, and then we moved away after kindergarten.
We're only about 2 hours, hour and a half from there.
And for the record, Allen, Texas looks nothing like it did when I lived there.
Right. You don't even know you're in Allen now. It's all like you're just there.
Exactly. It's gigantic. I mean, golly, their high school stadium is probably bigger than a lot of colleges' college stadiums.
Okay.
I mean, it is a huge town now. I mean, crazy. Let's see. We have Bobby says he is somewhere or Somerville, Massachusetts. Tim.
Okay.
Somerville, Massachusetts.
I think I was pretty close to there, Bobby, last month. I know I was in Danvers, in Boston, and so I don't know how far you are from there. I actually stayed in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, for a week. So hopefully some of the pictures and stuff may be familiar to you when we show some of my adventures here.
Jumping General says he's from North Carolina.
Okay.
North Carolina.
I'll be going to South Carolina next month.
So I love South Carolina. Been to Myrtle Beach several times. We've talked about that before. Have some good friends there. Our Facebook moderator, Louie, before he passed away, lived in Myrtle Beach. And I'd met him, and he was a really nice guy. But really like North Carolina, South Carolina area. Beautiful. Nate is from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, Tim.
Okay. Now I'm jealous. I would love to go. Nova Scotia's on my bucket list. I love it. So when I make it there, we got to get together. I want to tour a lighthouse. And I wouldn't mind finding Captain's Kidd treasure either. But anyway, I love Nova Scotia's on my bucket list. That's a beautiful place to live.
So I've got relatives in Canada, Tim. We talked about this. I've got several relatives in Calgary. So, which I used to visit all the time. Been to Canada several times. Love it. I know. I think that's on the eastern part or the western part. He's more eastern, I believe. Yeah. Nova Scotia. So,
yeah,
but I haven't been that far east. So, but I've been to Calgary and it's beautiful up there. Let's see. Real Hammer Billy Lee says Long Island, New York.
Right. We remember that, Billy.
So there you go. Let's see what else I got here. I saw some more guys. I'm looking through. John says hi from Chicago.
Okay.
So there you go.
I'll be supposed to go to Chicago in January.
Cold Flesh and Fangs is San Antonio, Texas. Of course, he won one of our giveaways, I think, for the Karate Champ.
Awesome.
So, just talking to some of the former winners here in the live chat, Tim. Let's see. Cyborg 2000, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
So, there we go. Let's see. And current phonograph is from Orange County, California.
Okay.
So we've got people on the East Coast. We got you on the West Coast. We got you on the North Coast. We got you all over the place, right?
Well, thank you. It's always neat to see where everybody's from, and the fact that you would turn in to watch these couple guys from Tyler, Texas, is where we live. Is just East Texas, which is about halfway between Dallas and Shreveport.
So I saw a map of Texas the other night, Tim.
Yeah.
And I did not realize that where we live is the same distance from Louisiana as El Paso is from New Mexico. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, like, if you looked at El Paso and where we live in East Texas, like, if you went out this way, both of us could leave the state in about the same amount of time.
Right.
Okay, if they went west and we went east.
Right.
So, but if we tried to meet in the middle, it'd take forever.
Right.
Because that's how big Texas is. So, we got Ron's here from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And Rexer shows here, Vegas now, but Michigan originally.
Nice.
So, Lots of great locations. We're so glad, like Tim mentioned.
Right, Retro Show. I didn't know you're in Vegas. Of course, that's on my bucket list. Never been to Vegas.
Me neither.
I've traveled all over the U.S. I have not been to Vegas yet. It's going to happen, though. It's going to happen soon.
Yeah. Tim, we need to make a trip.
We do.
So, Ron said Tulsa, Oklahoma, Tim. There's a big game coming up this weekend, I believe, between two teams that you and me are very familiar with.
Well, I do believe so, and I think that we
were both ranked at one time.
I would say we may have an more evenly match up this year. I don't think there's a strong favorite in this game. I don't.
Texas, Oklahoma this weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Texas here, Oklahoma there.
Right.
So, but anyway, we'll be talking about that in the after show. So if you guys want more of that, we can get there. But we're so glad, no matter where you're coming from tonight and where you're watching this from, we're glad that you're here. So Tim, I thought that was a really good, good thing to do. Kind of to give us a little breakup in questions. But with all that caught up and said, let us move on to Chris's question,
okay.
Tim. And Chris says, I have a 1980 Eagle arcade game that's not working. Can I get a JAMA wiring harness for this game?
Okay.
It does not have a space to plug in the board. Also, I took off the marquee light on top, which had the power button in it, which, Tim, I think he's talking about the power switch.
Okay.
And threw it away, not knowing I needed it. And Chris... happens to all of us, man.
Right.
Totally feeling you here. Now my game will not turn on. Would you have an old light with a plug that has 6 wires for sale? How can I wire a switch to start the game? So, Tim, we have Chris here who has kind of a couple of different issues here.
Yeah,
One, he needs a wiring harness for his game.
Right.
Now, he mentions JAMA here, Tim.
Right.
But, unfortunately, Eagle's not JAMA. It's a little different, right?
Right. It's a 22 pin. JAMA is normally 28 pins, right?
Yes.
So you're about 6 pins short. So no, you really can't just get a JAMA. Now you could get somebody to make you a JAMA adapter for it or something. But what you're going to need is a 22 pin edge connector. Like I'm pretty sure Miss Pac-Man would be a 22 pin.
I think you're correct. I'd have to double check it.
Or so a lot of those games for that time. So look up the pinouts and stuff. So you're going to need to get that kind of connector and wire it probably yourself. Although there are some people, if you do some internet researching, that do make those type of harnesses for just about any game. They'll make them for you.
Sure.
And sometimes it's worth it to get them to make it. As for the power switch and the 6-pin connector, you should be able to determine which wires for the marquee light and which ones are for the power switch and make it come on by tracing them back to where they come from based on that connector, or from your manual or a wiring diagram is what you need. And so that shouldn't be too hard. You can just literally bypass the switch if you needed to in the temporary until you get another switch and can replace it. Most switches just complete the circuit by connecting the ground, and once you connect the ground, then it completes the circuit and turns on. So a lot of times you just have to run the wire up there and then a wire from it back to the same place, and it will flip on when that power pole is connected. So maybe you could do that. Now, 6 pins for your light. So part of those probably, like you said, are going to the light bulb, and part of those, which you really need to be careful because we don't want to run power, at least not the hot side, all the way through your switch, or you don't want to run 2 voltage wires to the switch or something like that. So just be careful, follow your wiring diagrams, but you just need a couple wires to make you can still buy the standard, you probably still have the light bulb socket and stuff. You just need to help wiring it back up. What you're going to have to really do is get the manual for the game, though, and get familiar with that wiring pinout. When we use terms all the time that we take for granted, John, that everybody knows what we're talking about, but the pinout shows where this wire goes to which pin. In other words, pin 1, or it might be pin A, whatever they decided to label it. And then where does that wire go? And a lot of that's what we talked about with that meter earlier. You got to take it here and take it here and see if there's connectivity. And if it beeps or ohms go to 0, then you'll know that it's good and that's where that wire goes. And so you say, okay, this wire. And I remember taking masking tape and label them, or taking a label maker and label them and stuff, or label them on making your own label sometimes on the edge connector. Whatever it takes, writing it down, making a journal, whatever, It's painstaking work, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to trace all that down and to figure out where it goes. But you obviously, a lot of your wires are still hooked up, so you don't have a ton to do. Just be careful where they go. Find out, trace them back. You want the two that power on the game. Now, you may not have in your diagram, it'll show they're just coming through your power supply. So you're just going to hook up a couple wires. I think we've wired. Do we have a video on wiring up a switch, a power switch? If not, that's sorry, guys. That's something I know we have. We've done some stuff like that in our video where we make where we did the Holland computer game. There actually shows
we do show that.
We do show that in there.
Assembling
a cocktail table. So if you'll watch that video, you can forward or get to that point. We do show how to wire up a power switch.
Yes.
And that may help you. But of course that is JAMA, but we're using the same concept. We're finding which wires going where to what. And that may help you watching that video or watching us put that game together, because we actually do the same concept. It's just a few more wires than what you have. And I hope that helps. It's a lot of details in this question, but none of it is hard.
Right, exactly.
It's really not hard.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw this up here, Tim, because I think you went over it pretty well.
Okay.
So according to KLOV, Tim, Eagle uses a 22-pin connector. So JAMA is 28, which means we can't use the JAMA harness unless we have some sort of adapter, like Tim mentioned. You will need a 22-pin edge connector to wire it up, or a 22-pin harness. Tim mentioned that Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man used that. I think that is correct, Tim. I don't know for sure. But if that's the case, you could use one of those, or you can use this 22-pin edge connector that I have pictured here from Twisted Quarter.
Okay.
So, and all you have to do with this, of course, would be to put the wires in place and then run them to where they go based on the manual, right? Or the pinouts on the KLOV page, which I have there. As for the power switch and the 6-pin connector, you should be able to determine which wires are for the marquee light and which ones are for the power switch by tracing them back to their origins. If you want to replace that, just an off-the-shelf under-cabinet light and a standard power switch should work as replacements, right, Tim?
Correct.
So really, this is going to be a lot of painstaking work, like Tim mentioned, of just making
time-consuming, but it's not
right. Time-consuming, just
hard.
To make sure that you can run the wires where they need to go based on the pinout. But once you do that, you should be in business. And of course, you'll if you want a power switch like the one you had. I did link, I think, to these in the show notes down below in the description. So you can order this one from Twisted Quarter, as well as, and that under-cabinet light, Tim, is the one that we usually would pick up for cheap at Walmart.
Right.
And that one works fine. There's nothing special about it, so you can use that. In those 6 pins, you probably, I don't know if all 6 are populated, but you'll definitely probably have 3 that power the marquee light. You'll have a hot, a neutral, and a ground, right, Tim?
Yes.
And then you'll have whatever 2 wires are for the pass-through. There may be 3 wires for the AC pass-through for the power switch. And like Tim mentioned, once you figure out what those are, you can just hook them together temporarily just to get the game to come on. So, Tim, is there anything else for Chris here before we move on?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a deep. There was a lot of mini questions within a big question, and sometimes I know we mention stuff and we talk. I don't ever want to kind of talk over everybody's head, because I remember what it was like. It was frustrating when I was kind of new and stuff. So if we can break that down any further for you, just go ahead and email us some additional questions or whatever that we have. I do think if you watch our video on building an arcade assembling a cocktail cabinet kit, I think that will help you, because we kind of do it all from scratch. And that may make a lot of sense. But any other further questions that you have, please feel free to contact us, or we'll take it step by step if we just need to. And what I would do, one thing before we go on, I would unplug my game board and maybe my monitor. If you make a mistake, the worst case, you're going to knock out your power supply. But I would unplug a few things just to get the light up there working. You would know if the switch was working, because as soon as you hit it, the light come on, you would be good. But you could unplug your game board and all that stuff. Just in case.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound like it has a harness right now.
Right.
So that may not be a big deal.
Right. Until you're 100% sure that, okay, I've got working power and stuff before you plug it in case you make a mistake or something, you won't necessarily take out your game.
So sort of like an arcade order of operations. Let's do the marquee and the power switch first before doing any of the board work. Right?
That's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's good.
And you just got the AC power coming up there anyway, so it may help you out to an extent because they are related. That's why they were wired together, because as soon as the first thing you do is you turn the switch on, the light to the game would come on.
That's right.
So it kind of works together.
There you go. So, Chris, hopefully answers your question. I think Tim's recommendation of watching our video on assembling a cocktail cabinet kit is probably a really good idea because that does show some of the concepts that we're talking about here. But for the most part, if you get this edge connector, you wire up all your wires to where they're supposed to go, you wire power switch, marquee light, you should be back in business if your board's working, of course. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact us and let us know.
Well, especially if you'll order those parts from Holland, we actually show how to hook up that switch.
That's
and it
true.
will really help you.
Yeah, the ones I linked to here are from Twisted Quarter. They're very similar. Not a whole lot of difference between them. So, but hopefully answer your question, Chris, and good luck with your repair on your Eagle arcade cabinet. Tim, one you don't see a whole lot, older games.
No, so. We're getting some rare game questions tonight.
Absolutely. So, Tim, before we move on here, John says, what's a good benchtop adjustable power supply for working on PCBs? What would you recommend for that?
I love the HAP control, just the linear power supply. The one that has the indicator light on it, with the LED light that actually you don't even have to have a meter. It's green, you're right on voltage. If it turns a little orange, then you need to turn it up a little bit or whatever the colors are. That's one of my favorite ones.
Now, the only thing I would chime in on that is that, Tim, a lot of times those are only 15 amp. And so you may want to go with like an ATX style just because that usually is closer to like a 30 amp.
Yeah, I was going to say, it kind of depends on what kind of boards are you working on. That's my next question is, do you plan on doing a lot more older boards or a mixture of both? And John is exactly right. If you are going with newer boards, you're probably going to go with an ATX power supply.
Right. The higher amperage will just help you, right? Exactly. Because, higher amperage will help those newer style games. Anything that has a hard drive, Tim, really needs those additional amps to really help.
For sure. And even the ATX they make with the 5-volt indicator light. That's just a preference.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll find some, Tim, that have the LED readout that show what it is. It's not always 100% right, guys, on that, but it'll actually show like 4.7, 4.8,
right.
4.9.
That's become more popular with some of the newer ones, and they're nice. Very nice to have.
Absolutely. So, but those are just some of what you're looking at. He says mostly Atari boards.
Okay.
So probably closer to what you were talking about then, Tim, like a HAP controls, like standard 15 amp switching power supply, you think?
Yes.
So there you go.
That'd be my opinion. It's just an opinion. Everybody's kind of got one, but they're a dime a dozen. But that's my recommendation.
Sounds good. Okay, Tim. Well, the next question we have here is from Emma. Now, you'll notice that I've entitled the episode something. We're coming up to that here in a second, I promise, guys. We're coming up to the title question. But before we get to that, let's talk about Emma's question, Tim. She says, hi, I garbage picked a Golden T98 board. It powers up and plays, but the picture is wavy. Now, Tim, she says, like, unplayable wavy. Okay. I'm not sure.
So really...
right, exactly. I'm not sure what the definition of wavy is here. Maybe we'll find out here in a minute. I checked the power supply, and it was set at 5.9 volts. I turned it to 5 volts. The board will not power on completely. The green light at D7 lights up, the sound status yellow lights up, and the video status green will not power on unless I crank the power up. Okay. The wires from the power supply to the board are making a good connection. Would you assume that the board is half cooked, like restricting power flow? That's why it needs more power to power up. Now, Tim, not done yet here. Okay. I don't care about the game. I'm just having fun playing with the insides. The kids would be amazed if I get it working. That's just the bonus. Thanks, Emma. Also, I'm wondering if you make money or if this is something you just enjoy doing. Now, Tim, I think we can answer the second part of this really quickly. Right. We make very little money. This is definitely not... If we were in it for the money, we would have quit a long time ago. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of money here. For us YouTubers that don't get 1 million hits per video, Tim, the pickings are slim, as we would like to say here in Texas. So,
I keep just waiting and filming stuff, hoping I'm going to mess up and it's going to be so funny that everybody's going to watch it and then we'll retire.
That's right. We'll get the one viral video that we need, right? So, so we don't make any money here. We're just trying to help people out as best we can here. So, with that said, Tim, let's go ahead and go back to the other questions. Now, obviously, 5.9 is pretty high. Okay, right. That's way higher than usual to get the board to come
But not so uncommon with a Golden T board, though.
That's true.
And we're not really at 5.1 even. Mm-hmm. She's saying 5.9. It's
5.9, not 5.09. Okay. Correct. Well, almost to the 6 volt line.
So, yeah.
On the 5 volt.
that is, I would call that pretty high.
Right.
Yeah, and we wouldn't recommend running it that high for very long. Usually, you run maybe 5.1.
I run 5.4.
5.4
is even
top.
high, though.
Yeah.
I was about to say 5.4 would even be high. I wouldn't go any higher than 5.
I think she's right. The
5.4.
fact that she's having to crank it up that high is an indicator that something is going on.
Now, Tim, I do want to bring this up as something, and I put this in the outline, too.
Okay.
We have seen, and I assume that she's using her multimeter to read this, we have seen that when our multimeter has low battery, that sometimes the readings get wonky.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm wondering here, are the batteries in your multimeter good? Because maybe your meter is saying 5.9, but you're really getting 5.4. Does that make sense? So we've seen that before. I mean, I have these Craftsman multimeters, Tim. On these, it will do that. So like if those batteries are about to die, now these have low voltage indicators on them to let me know the battery is low. But when it's giving me that, the readings can be erratic.
Right.
Okay, and so the first thing I would say is just make sure that the batteries in your multimeter are good. Okay, and put new batteries in there if you need to. Just to make sure that we know that the reading is accurate. Or use your multimeter to test something you know is 5 volts, for instance. So, that would be probably one of the first places to start. Tim, what do you think, though? It sounds like, though, when she has it, that's the 5.9 is the only way she can get it to drive the video out of the Golden Tee board. But again, way too high, right?
Yeah, it seems too high. And then the fact that it's kind of wavy, and wavy is one of those terms that it could be a lot of different things. Is the screen scrolling, and you call that a wave after wave like that? Or is it kind of doing a hula effect down the sides? Those are some questions.
Are we
that
getting
I
interference?
Would ask
you. Like when I think wavy interference, Tim, I think about like when I used to try to tune a TV when I was a kid. And like you get kind of a wave through it, like almost a lot of times grounding issue kind of wave. So it could also be that kind of wave. It's hard when we don't have a visual confirmation of what the wave is.
So if you could shoot a video or take a picture of us, we may be able to help you more there. But just based on what you said, something is not right. If your meter is working correctly and you're having to crank it up to 5.9 to pretty much get anything, something's going on. There's some parts that are failing, and we're not board repair people, but I would almost bet that there's some kind of issue going on with it.
Right, and it could be some. There's obviously a voltage issue. It's almost like there's something that's, like you said, restricting the voltage flow through the board. And so what you can do, Tim, is if you look up the chips that where the voltage pins are, you can start going chip by chip on the board and make sure that you're getting 5 volts everywhere.
Right.
Okay, and Tim, you've probably seen people put boards underneath an infrared camera to see where the heat is. I bet you if you did that with this board with it running 5.9, you would find some areas with some
probably
heat.
So.
I can almost guarantee it. And so you may run the board for just like about a minute or two and see if you can feel hot areas around the board. Because that's 5.9 is high, like we're talking about. So we're probably going to have some places on the board that are heated up, and then check any chips, check voltage pins and grounds on chips to see what the voltages are. Okay, and make sure those are good voltages as well. You'll probably find one where the voltage is funky.
Right.
So, and like I said, the heat will probably indicate that as well.
And so, being that we are both leaning that it is probably a board issue, one thing we should mention, you don't have a Grail game board.
Right.
It's not like
it's not a Tron.
Right. It's not a Tron or something. It may be easier just to. It is JAMA, so it may be easier to buy a similar Golden Tee board, maybe that one, or a working one that's pretty close to that era. Off of eBay, and then your kids would be up and playing, and you may be out a lot less trouble just replugging and placing a board.
Yeah, I was about to say, Golden Tee boards still only go for about $50 on eBay. The older models like this, $50-$60 on eBay, they're still pretty common, and so
it would cost a lot more probably to get it fixed.
Agreed. But again, you may be able to troubleshoot this yourself just by doing some visual board and feeling inspection on it. So just to see where the hot spots are. So Tim, I'm going to go ahead and throw up the outline here. So it's pretty common to set the +5 line a bit higher. Tim mentioned that, not uncommon at all. But 5.9 is pretty high. It's probably out of the realm of what we consider. It's in the realm of what we consider too high. We wouldn't recommend running it that high for very long. Have you tried lowering the voltage to see how low we can get it to light that video LED? She mentioned, Tim, that she cranks it up there, the video LED lights on the board, keep backing it off until it goes off, and then find the lowest setting you can get it to. That may be a good way for you to find out where is an acceptable level for it. So if not, you may give that a shot. Also, check the batteries in your multimeter. I mentioned this, Tim. Sometimes bad batteries can cause your multimeter reading to be erratic, right?
Correct.
For sure. Okay? Seen it a million times. Thought the voltage was nuts. Turned out to be bad batteries in the multimeter. So please check that. But Tim mentioned we're not really sure what you mean by wavy. Okay, is it a flipping screen? Is it that may be a hold issue? Does it look like your monitor's doing the hula? Is it a hula effect kind of thing? Does it look like interference, like I'm trying to tune my rabbit ears, Tim? And golly, some of you guys in the live chat have no idea what I'm saying when I'm saying rabbit ears. Right. I realize that, Tim, I don't feel very old, but now I think sometimes I'm very old.
Right.
I told my wife the other day, we were looking at some of our honeymoon pictures. I'm like, I didn't feel old until I looked at those.
Right.
Because then you look at yourself in the mirror and you look at those pictures and you realize, wait a second, I'm old.
Right. If you've ever put tinfoil on the rabbit ears to try to get a better reception.
You know what I'm talking about, okay? This is what we're talking about with that kind of interference. You get kind of like this kind of signal interference kind of stuff. So you may be getting that as well. But send us a picture so we can help you troubleshoot this further. Now, we have a great, and I didn't mention this here, Tim, but we have a great video on inspecting an arcade board. And again, checking voltages on the chips on the board, you can do that as well. And then feeling for hot spots, because if you're running 5.9, I can almost guarantee there's going to be a hot spot, right, Tim?
For sure.
There's going to be a hot spot. So it's just a matter of finding it. So there you go. Oh, here we go. Let's see. I know what you mean, Jonathan. You see, some people know, Tim.
Right.
And then Nate Berg says, I'm 33 and I've dealt with rabbit ears. You see, some of you guys know what I'm talking about, even though you're not that old. So that makes me feel better.
Some of you are, had a remote control when you grew up. Some of you
were the remote control. Right? That is correct. Definitely was the remote control there for a little bit, Tim. I definitely
change
remember
the
that.
channel.
That's right, exactly. Tim, I will never forget the day that we got the wired remote control. Okay, you had this big wire and these little clicky buttons that you had to hit on the thing to get it. That was like a miracle. Okay, it was awesome. It was amazing. So, but anyway, YouTube Punk, if you put tinfoil rabbit ears, it's time to get your prostate checked. That is correct.
Probably so. And a colonoscopy if you haven't had one yet.
Time to schedule one,
guys. It's a public service announcement.
That's right. We want to make sure that you're all healthy and safe out there. But yeah, obviously, But here's the deal, Tim. Over the air still exists.
Right.
I have a nice antenna on my house. Okay, that I still pick up local channels with. Okay, so I mean it still exists, and I don't put tinfoil on it, and I don't have to do this little thing with it anymore. But I mean, you can still pick up over-the-air channels. It's still a thing, I promise. So anyway, so Emma, hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting that Golden T98 board up and running. I think I'll just leave it at that. How about that?
All right,
we'll just wrap it up right
there.
Go
on.
Nice package. Okay, Overbuilt Automotive, Tim. Hi, folks. Let's see. I still took time to recap an Atari sit-down pole position 2. Its issue is the screen is squeezed. It's smaller than it should be in both directions. 100% cap kit almost. Anytime we're getting that kind of, when you're getting a squeezed kind of issue like this with the picture, I mean, very, very, very often that's a cap kit issue.
Did he say he did a cap kit, or he wants to know if to do a cap kit?
He says, I still took time. I still haven't probably taken time to recap.
Yes. Yeah, you need to.
Its issue is the screen is squeezed. It's smaller than it should be in both directions. Very common. Very common for it to be caps. It still needs caps. Okay. Yeah, very common cap kit issue. So if you order a cap kit, try that first. Now, not all collapse issues are cap kit issues. We should say that. But if you've only got it squeezed a little bit, more often than not caps, right, Tim? Now, if it's collapsed, then we're looking at something different. Like if you're getting just a single line across the monitor, Tim, that is total collapse. That's a little different. Then we need to be looking at vertical IC chips and some other things, okay? But if you still have most of your picture and it's just kind of squeezed in, probably a cap kit is what you need to solve it. Okay. Oh, Delusionals Arcade's here, Tim.
Hey, what's going on?
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here, as always. So, just wanted to mention that. Okay, are we caught up?
Now we're getting to the headline, right?
This is it. Okay.
All right.
So, so here we go. This is the one that's the question, Tim. And Tim, this seems like such a Tim question.
Okay.
I mean, this is definitely in your wheelhouse. So the title of this episode is CEC, Chuck E. Cheese Worldwide Pinball Party, Tim.
Okay.
And so here's the question that goes along with that. It's from Ron. He says, hello, I recently purchased a Dale Jr. pinball machine. Once I had it home, the game was reset to its factory settings. Take a look at the attached photo of the DMD display, Tim. Welcome to Chuck E. Cheese's Worldwide Party. The default scores on the table is comprised of Chuck E. Cheese characters too. Poor Mr. Pasquale is ranked at number 4, Tim. Is this something Chuck E. Cheese did to all of their pins? Now, Tim, you have obviously worked on quite a few Chuck E. Cheese pins. Mm-hmm. Probably have worked on a whole lot of them, I was about to say. So, so obviously, there was a period where Stern was putting pinball machines into Chuck E. Cheese's. That's not so much the case now. But during that period, what was happening, and why do we have these kind of Chuck E. Cheese specific settings in there?
Well, yeah, it was designed or purchased specifically to go to a Chuck E. Cheese. So what they did was make sure they didn't have any adult language or anything like that. So a lot of them were programmed with chips specifically for not just Chuck E. Cheese. You might have for Dave & Buster's or whatever that would be a custom message like that, and a lot of people put their own custom messages, but these were specifically programmed with that in mind. Not very hard to do, but yes, a lot of them would say things like that, and just kind of made it a little more fun, trying to get the highest score, higher than Chucky's score or something like that. So yeah, it was actually pretty common, and still is. I think they still do that type of stuff.
Yeah, and Tim, this is where we have yes, for the most part, Stern Pinball had a special setup code, Tim. So when it left the factory, if it was going to a Chuck E. Cheese, they would put in the setup code, and that would basically default all these settings for the Chuck E. Cheese locations. So, and it would do the welcome to Chuck E. Cheese's Worldwide Party and use the characters as the high score save names. So most pinball machines were installed at Chuck E. Cheese locations had the setup code initiated. Other pinball machines we've seen with this include Shrek, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Simpsons Pinball Party, which you actually had in your location for a while. So there were several of them that have this. So if you get one of these machines, there's a good chance that from the factory it had the setup code in there to where it would just default to this. Right.
I've actually seen a Lord of the Rings like that.
Lord of the Rings doesn't surprise me. Kind of the same era of Stern Pinball.
Yeah, so kind of that era, same way and stuff. But it was just kind of a fun era. And I would say if you ever run across that at auction, that most Chuck E. Cheese pins, if the tech was worth anything, we did do a lot of, I did weekly cleanings on mine, and we were, we tested and played and made sure everything worked on them. So they were well maintained for the most part, even though that they were in a kid's place, and kids just sit there and hit the flippers and kind of beat on them a little bit. But if you ever run across one in auction, they usually won't have as many plays as some other places, and they're usually pretty steady, pretty good games to have. They're usually well taken care of.
There you go. So, well, I thought that was interesting, Tim, and Ron sent in that question, and I thought, man, I have just the guy. So there we go. So that's why we have Chuck E. Cheese's Worldwide Pinball Party as the title of tonight's episode. So,
all right.
Thanks for being here for that. John, do they make a universal coin mech mod where I can use any coin for all my machines? So yes. I have a 3D printed, I think it's called the Any Coin Mech, Tim. And so if I find the link, I can send that to you, John. But the Any Coin Mech is what I have in a lot of the machines. I have a machine up at our church, Tim, that has an Any Coin Mech in it. It's because that game is on free play. And so if people want to make donations to it, it just falls through and lets them do it. So, but the Any Coin, and I believe Any Coin is all one word, ANYCOIN, the Any Coin Mech, and it's 3D printed, so you may be able to find like the what do you call it, the instructions for it, and print it yourself if you've got a 3D printer. But yes, the Any Coin Mech is one that will let any coin through. So and they, like I said, I ordered mine, but if you look for them online, you'll probably find them.
All right.
Joe says, Tim's glasses with the screen reflection looks like a cop from the 80s with the mirrored glasses. I feel like I need to surrender my license.
Well, at least I don't have the Jeffrey Dahmer frames, right?
That's true. Now, we're going to be talking about that in the after show. That is one of the most watched Netflix series ever. Tim, in the short period it's been out, just to give you an idea. So I have not watched it. Tim has. We'll be talking about that in the after
It's funny you said that. I should have warned. I just ordered. Of course, if you've watched our videos, you'll know that this is last couple years, I finally had to go to Glasses John. You wear contacts. I just can't. I haven't went there yet, but I need to try them. But I finally did get some sunglasses that were So I have a pair of sunglasses. So maybe if I wore those, I could see still, but they really do. Those now really do look like a cop.
There you go. So here's the deal, Tim, though. I have been wearing glasses since I was 14 years old. So I learned how to wear contacts when I was young. And so I've never almost known my life without them. Now, I will say it took me about 4 hours at the contact place the very first time I had to put them in order to get the hang of it. But now it's just something.
Well, you can remember the last few years before I wore glasses, I would always tell you, I need more light. I need more light. No, I needed some glasses.
I kept telling him that.
When I first, it was like the first time I tried glasses on, I was like, oh, yeah, that's what stuff's supposed to look like. So, anyway, if you wear glasses, I feel your struggle out there.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, my eyes are bad. Now, I am a candidate for LASIK, Tim. LASIK is expensive.
Ah.
Okay, but I could maybe at one point get LASIK. I think it's $2,000 to $3,000 per eye, and insurance usually doesn't cover it. So.
Wow, I didn't know that was that expensive.
So, whenever I make my money, then I can look at that. But until then, I'm just going to wear contacts. So, okay, there we go. Okay, Tim, we have our rapid fire quick question and answers coming up, and this is the last bit of our questions for this month, Tim.
Okay.
So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and do that real quick, guys. So, we have 3, as usual. We have Nick, who says, hi, I have an arcade 1-up, and the controls won't work.
Okay.
Okay, so we're arcade 1-up, Tim. Can I repair it, or do I just need to replace the control deck?
Okay.
Jumping General is here. He says, I am purchasing a Phoenix arcade all original. The seller has given me the option to have him install a cap kit in the original monitor or replace it with a new monitor. What do you recommend?
Okay.
And then we have the Rexer Show, who is also here with us, Tim, and he says, how do high scores save on different PCBs? Some use batteries. Some need high score save kits. How do I get my missile command to save high scores? Thanks. So, Tim, we have 2 of the 3 that are actually here in the house with us tonight, but let's take Nick's first here. Now, Tim, you helped me assemble an arcade 1-up that we had. The very first one that we got, which is the Atari one here. And so you know kind of how they work. And so with that in mind, we have Nick who's saying he doesn't have... his controls aren't working on his arcade cabinet, on his arcade 1-up cabinet. So what does he need to do in order to maybe tweak that or figure out?
If it was a normal arcade, we would say check your wiring and make sure it's grounded. But that's not as easy with an arcade 1-up. But there is a ribbon cable.
Correct.
And he needs to make sure that it's plugged in good and that there's no damage to it. Sometimes you could replace that, but yeah, you may, if it's something and you just can't figure it out, or it is a board issue, you might need to contact them, see what they recommend.
Yeah, so there is a, just real quick, there is a box on the back of the monitor that holds the game PCB. Then there's a ribbon cable that comes from that box down to the control deck. Now, it depends on which model you have. Some of them have the... have it a little bit different, but most of them have the game board on the back of the monitor mounted and then a ribbon cable going to the control deck. In the control deck, Tim, there's another circuit board that ribbon cable goes to. And so if that circuit board is bad, you could experience what you're experiencing. But make sure that the ribbon cable, like Tim mentioned, is good. That's very important. Tim, we have Jumping General. Phoenix, do I get the guy who I'm buying it from wants to either, or is offering me to install a cap kit or replace the monitor? What do you recommend?
Well, we always like to keep things as original as possible, and probably for the cost savings, I would go with a cap kit. But that's just my recommendation. Of course, it would be up to you. You may want the new monitor. A new monitor should last you probably as long as you have the game. So that's something to weigh in consideration. But I would probably just have him do a cap kit.
Absolutely.
And make it look like new.
There you go. So Rexer Show, okay, obviously PCBs use a lot of different methods for saving high scores. Some of them have that functionality built into them, use like a battery pack or something. Some of them you have to have high score save kits for. He's specifically asking about Missile Command though, Tim. And so what can he do with Missile Command in order to save those high scores?
Well, currently the only one that we know of is the Braze technology board that would do a Missile Command save kit. And we've talked about that before here on the show. And so that's the one that I would get in order to do that.
Now, I think that game, it actually has an additional game on it, but I think you can basically set which version you want, if you want Missile Command or the other version, and then once you set it, I think there's a combination of buttons you have to set, or you have to hit in order for it to switch to the other game, and more than likely, nobody's ever going to hit those. So you could probably leave it in Missile Command mode the vast majority of the time and be fine. But yes, we do have a link down below there, Rexer Show, for the Braze Technologies
BRAZE.
Yeah, Missile Command Save Kit. So, and so Tim, I think with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here. So, like we mentioned about Nick's Arcade 1-Up, check the ribbon cable that runs from the main board to the control deck. Make sure the connection is good. You may need to open up the housing on the main board and check the connection there as well. Now, that's important too, Tim. I did not mention that. That game board housing on the back of the monitor, you may need to open that up and make sure the ribbon cable is good there as well.
Correct.
Jumping General, choice is yours. Like Tim mentioned, we would probably have him keep the CRT and install the cap kit. Because we like to keep arcade cabinets original as long as we can. But if you want him to install a new monitor, no shame in that. You could go that way as well. And then regs or show, again, it really depends on the board as to how you're going to do save kit. If the game did not originally have a save function, then you're probably going to have to get a save kit that has some different chips in there that do have the capability for save, right, Tim? And so that's the case with your Missile Command board, and you can get the Brace Technologies one there, and we have the link there that you can go to as well. Okay, Tim, is that everything on those? Anything else? So. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to check over here with the live chat real quick. Let's see. Yeah. Are you guys going to, this is from RC Outdoors, are you guys going to Retropalooza in Arlington? Probably not. I don't tend to go to a lot of the retro game shows unless it's arcade related. I know that they do have some arcade games and things there, Tim, but what about you?
When is it?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Let me know. I'm maybe.
There you go.
I'm not opposed.
Okay. Let's see. John says, start to buy your backup batteries for your pins and arcades. Daylight savings time is coming up, November 6th. Yes. Just as a good rule of thumb, people replace your batteries, when daylight saving time begins or ends or whatever. So, just to swap out all the batteries in your games, make sure that you don't have any battery leaks or anything like that. Just a good rule of thumb. A lot of people like that.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Jumping General, were most factory 80s arcade marquee light bulbs 25 watt or 40 watt? Tim, I want to say 40s.
Yeah, I would think more 40. But just from pulling them out of games over the years, I don't really remember back when they were new, because they were new and we didn't really ever change them. They lasted forever.
Sure.
But most of them that we pulled out seemed like they've been 40 watts.
Yeah, but I mean, choice is up to you. It really depends on what you're looking for. I mean, you can always put a 25 or 40 if you like it a little bit more dim. We always like it brighter, I think, Tim. So, so it just depends on what you're going for. Joe, steering potentiometer on race drive and any way to clean one that is choppy. I used to use Radio Shack tuner cleaner, but that's impossible to find now. So what's the best thing to clean a steering potentiometer, Tim?
Probably just some good, board contact cleaner or something. That's about all I can think of. John, do you know of anything that would
Not
clean
that I
them
can.
really
I
good?
mean, like I said, you've probably had more experience when it comes to steering potentiometers.
Most of the time, just replace them by that time if you're having to clean it.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a little contact cleaner. The little electronics cleaner with the brush is really good for stuff like that typically. And you can still find that on Amazon.
Even some of that Radio Shack stuff you can still find around.
Radio Shack's still in business. They just don't have locations. So, you can order it. A lot of times you have to pay for shipping, but Radio Shack's still around. They still are carrying most of their stuff. So... let's see. Overbuilt, guys, I had thought it would be neat to run extra games on my Atari, like an input mod. They got cheap game boxes with any video outputs. Any thoughts? And I'm very handy at rebuilding things. So, they've got these multi-game boards now that you could do a lot with. The Atari game that you have, it may depend on what your control panel setup is as to which one would work best. I mean, how many 16-1s have we seen, Tim? 16-1's one of the most popular boards, but if you want a good selection, and it depends on if you've got a vertical or horizontal game as to which one you want, but they make good multi-game boards of both. Most people, for classic games, like the Game Elf style boards, Tim. Those are very popular, and they come in horizontal and vertical ones, so you could go either way that way. Emulation is not perfect on those. You could always, if you want something that's better, you could always go with either a PC or a Mister type setup if you want to go that route. But if you're looking for something pre-built, already made, your best bets are probably Game Elf and then maybe some of the other Pandora's Box style boards. But for classic games, I think the Game Elf and the 16-1, those are some of your best options for those. They do arcade. What's the arcade shop multi-game board guy? I can't think of the name of it. Arcade, whatever it is. Arcade SD. The Arcade SD is a really good piece, a really good board for multi-game boards. So if you want something like that, you could go that route too. But they've got some out there. I mean, Tim, any thoughts on any of the multi-game boards?
Well, they all have their advantages and disadvantages. It's kind of a preference.
Absolutely. So if you want to go that route, there's no shame in that. we've got a lot of people who are very happy. Tim, I went and put a joystick on our friend Steve's, who, I mean, golly, he literally wears out joysticks, and he's the only one playing them. So, I mean, that just gives you an idea of how much he plays. But he had worn out a joystick, and he has a vertical and horizontal Game Elf board cabinet. He has one of each, and they work really well for him. So, I mean, it just depends on what you want to go
probably
with.
over 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you look up Game Elf on like Google Game Elf Arcade, you'll probably see those boards, and you can get an idea of like what games are on there. And again, you want to only put the one on there that's for the way your monitor is mounted in your game. So, if you've got an Atari game that's got a horizontal screen, Missile Command, Crystal Castles, you want to go with the horizontal version. If you got one with a vertical Centipede, something like that, you'll want to go with the vertical one, and you can find both those online if you look. So, and there's a lot of sellers. Highscoresaves.com, Tim, is one of the guys that he usually has quite a selection of multi-game boards. You can go there for sure. Yeah, John says like Arcade SD, Arpidecade, that's another option for you. Pi2Jamma, that's another one that you could go with if you want to go the emulator solution. Some of those, like the Pi Arcade options, you'll have to usually get an image that you like and then make sure that you flash an SD card with that image. So that's a little bit more work than just putting a Game Elf in, right, Tim?
Right.
So, okay, is that it? Are we caught up?
I think so.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think we're to the point where you're going to tell us about where you've been.
All right.
Okay, so you mentioned you've been traveling.
I did. I have.
So this is the Tim Travels segment. So
Right.
in Tim's Travels, where did you go this month, Tim?
Well, I went to north of Boston, flew into Boston, and about 50 miles north, I was in New Hampshire. Of course, those of us in Texas, like you talked about, we could travel about an hour and a half, and we were in Louisiana. You travel an hour and a half there, you went through 4 states.
Right.
It's kind of crazy, that part of it. My hotel was literally in New Hampshire. I could walk across a bridge and be in Maine, or I could go 6 miles south and be in Massachusetts. So it was really unique to be in that northeastern part and to do some travel. So while I was there, I always like 2 things I do when I travel is besides work, I get to eat and I like to try local foods, drinks, whatever that they have. And I try to visit some sort of arcade, especially if it's a barcade or something with classic games. So I was in Dover, New Hampshire, and I went to Token's Taproom. And John's got some pictures.
I do.
I'll show
the
you.
pictures you sent me.
Yeah, they had a good selection of a lot of new pins, some really new stuff, and then they also had a good collection of classic games and stuff to choose from, and was really reasonable. I think I paid $5, and you got like 20 tokens or something, and most games took 3 tokens to play.
It's not bad.
So no, it was for $5. I definitely played probably over an hour. And so that was, I felt like was well worth the money and the time. They did have beer there. I don't remember if they had any food. I didn't eat there. They did have drinks. I think they had some pub style food while you're there. But as you can see, it was it wasn't too crowded, but there were some people there. It looked like some regulars that come in and play. If you've ever been there or if you're ever visiting that area, I would highly recommend going there. Of course, just like most places that we're not used to, John, every parking was a premium. I did happen to find and had to parallel park somewhere to get in there. It didn't only cost me like $1.50 for an hour or something for parking. Wasn't bad. It was finding a spot that seemed to be the issue. So you definitely want to consider that when you go there, that it is kind of in the middle of town and parking was a little difficult.
So I'm looking at these pictures, Tim, and I see a Theater of Magic for sure.
Yes.
I see a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
I see a Godzilla. I see a
Yes.
Stranger Things. I see an Addams Family.
Yes.
I can't tell what that one is on the end, though. I was having a hard time with that one. Maybe
I'm
if I
having a
get
hard time
Yeah, I was about to
remembering.
say, I'd have to look at your pictures for sure. Now, on the picture on the right, I see Mortal Kombat 2, Street Fighter 2, which are pretty standard fare, Neo Geo stuff. It looks like we had a couple other pictures here. Let's see
show
what
some
we
more
got.
pictures.
We got, here's Terminator 2.
Yes.
We've got Dracula and Is that Demolition Man?
Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. We've got a Donkey Kong, a Baby Pac-Man. It looks like it's fully working.
I actually played that several times. That was one of my favorite classic games to get to play.
Yeah, and then Space Invaders there on the end. Now, the Street Fighter, it looks like we have a Golden Axe here and a Tetris on the end. Is that what that is? Okay. So it looks like a nice collection here. Now, was this just a sampling of the games, or was this pretty much
just a sampling of the games? I would say this is probably about half the games that they had. If you'll notice, it said like exit, and there was a door. You see the door in the screen behind that game, but no, it is an exit. You go that way, but there's a whole other game room over there. So I was like, oh. Wow, so that was a surprise. So if you go there, don't just think that one little room is all they have. Go around the curve or corner there, and you'll find even more games.
Wow, okay. I think that's all the games. I think that's all the pictures you sent me.
Okay.
Let me see real quick. So overall, what would you rate Token's Taproom on the Tim scale? Would you if you're gonna give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs down?
If you're anywhere near there within 20 or 50 miles, it's a must stop, and I like to support them and everything. So I'll give them a solid 8 out of 10. Decoration wise, we have seen maybe some cooler decorations, but this one really had that barcade feel, and I really liked it. And the guy was real friendly and was fun. And I talked to him. I told him that we were going to do a shout out on the show. So hopefully he's watching tonight or watching in the after show. He took our information down. I told him we would be shouting out, and that I thought the games were well maintained. That's one thing. All the pins played perfectly. I didn't have any issues. Maybe a ball getting stuck here or there. And he came out. He was not the tech, but he knew how to take the glass off and remove a ball. So it was good so they went through some training. So he gets a solid 8. A really solid 8.
And I liked the way that they had the screens above the pinball machines, so that they had the cameras down. So you could watch people play. That's always a really nice feature, Tim, when you see that at a location.
And there was somebody there that was obviously, John, we're more repairs and we love them, but we're not like the world's best at playing. I'm not a tournament player at all.
Right.
And there was a guy there that probably was. He was really good, and it was kind of cool. So part of my hour might have been 10 minutes of just watching him.
Okay.
It was kind of fun to watch. I love to watch people who are really good.
Absolutely. So, well, thanks for telling us about Token's Taproom, Tim. Hopefully you guys will get a chance to check it out if you're anywhere in that New Hampshire area. So good stuff. And I'm glad that you got to visit it, Tim. I know you said your trip was kind of tight on time, so I'm glad that you're able to kind of get one in there.
It was, what's weird is those of you who live there on the West Coast now, it got dark at about 7 o'clock. And here in Texas, it still was getting dark around 8 o'clock. So it was like I had to just get off work. I didn't really like to drive in the dark in places I didn't know and odd towns and stuff. So I was trying to get there before you can see the sun is already coming down. It's probably about 6 o'clock right there.
Yeah, in the little background.
You already see it's coming down pretty quick. So it's probably after 6.
There you go.
And it gets dark really fast. It's kind of strange to me.
Yeah, and Tim, it's starting to get darker earlier here. I mean,
once time changes,
I was about to say we're getting there.
Same way.
But it's definitely something that, like during the summertime here, we're usually not dark until 9.
At 7 o'clock there, it was dark.
Wow,
dark.
Okay.
Yeah,
sounds good. Well, we're glad you had a good time. Thanks for telling us about it. We look forward to hearing wherever you're going next and seeing if you can catch
next trip
catch another
Beaufort, South Carolina.
There we go. So. Okay, I do want to remind everybody before we move on, Tim, that we have this lovely AC voltage detector and soldering iron that we're giving away. If you will send an email with your shipping address to contest@arcaderepairtips.com, you could win these 2 items. We will ship them out to you for nothing, for free, just for watching tonight. Now, if you're watching this after the fact, Tim, we usually determine who's going to win shortly after the show. Me and Tim will pick a number at random. He has not seen your contest entries, and I will pick that one. So, but we do already have some. Right. So there are already some contest entries, but you have a really good chance to win if you want to send yours in now. So contest@arcaderepairtips.com. You have till the end of the show to send that email to contest@arcaderepairtips.com. So again, win a nice soldering iron kit tonight and an AC voltage detector. Good things to have in your arcade repair toolbox. So, Tim, I have something down here too.
Okay.
So I was able to get some of these for a really great deal, and I know not all you guys are Arcade 1-Up fans. Right? Like some of you guys are and some of you guys aren't. But I thought I would pass this deal on to you. So if you guys are looking for a riser, I have some, and I will sell them for $35 plus shipping to your location. So if you guys are interested in this, if you have some arcade 1-ups and you want a riser for them, $35 plus whatever it costs to ship to you, send an email to Jonathan at Arcade Repair Tips if you're interested in this. So I posted them on the Facebook and the Twitter feed, but I don't know how many of you guys saw it, so I wanted to just throw that out there. If you do have an arcade 1-up that you want to make a little bit taller, Tim, and maybe you're tired of sitting down at, you'd rather stand up at, you can get this guy, and $35 plus shipping to your location. You can have one of these. I have a couple of them, Tim. I think in that picture you can see I have several, and I'm keeping some for me, just because. But I wanted to pass along the good deal for you guys. So if you guys are looking for risers, $35 plus shipping, email me, Jonathan at arcaderepairtips.com. So, those things are heavy.
Yeah, they are.
Golly. So we're giving away soldering irons. I'm giving you good deals on risers. Tim, what else can we do for our audience, right? You got anything else?
Well, they can stick around the live show and we'll talk about anything.
There you go.
I think we got some good topics coming up.
Absolutely. So now let me check out with the live show chat, or the live chat real quick, Tim, before we move on here. Let's see. Are we caught up? I think we are... Yeah, and people are talking about like converting pole positions to like to Pi arcades or going with the MAME stuff. You can do that, but guys, if it's working, leave it working until it dies. I mean, because Tim, I hate doing that to a machine that's working.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, if you have a pole position cabinet that's just sitting there gathering dust and the board is toast, feel free to do what you want to with it. But if it's working now, I mean, I'm just under the impression you shouldn't touch it. Now, with that said, it's your cabinet. You can do what you want to do with it, right? I mean, if you want to rip out a pole position board and put a MAME in there, go for it. Please send that board to somebody who needs it. Rehome that board, and find somebody who can put it to good use, right, Tim?
Sure.
So, but like I know people like driving MAMEs. Like I've got a cabinet in storage, Tim. I really want to make a driving MAME out of. So I totally understand that. If you're gonna do it out of pole position, just make sure that you send the board off to somebody who wants it. So, okay. I think we kind of caught up with that. Tim, let's go ahead and move into our discussion and news portion of the show. And Tim, I was very, very surprised to see anything Tron come out. But here we are. It's 2023, and we're getting a new Tron adventure game called Tron Identity. And so Disney announced Tron Identity, which is coming in 2023 to PC. Identity is a visual novel adventure following a detective program known as Query, of all the names to give it, of course. The game will feature the familiar Tron art style and multiple endings. Finding yourself in a world built on unstable foundations and filled with whispered knowledge, it's up to you to question suspects and investigate your surroundings to piece together the truth. Reads a line from the game's description. So, Tim, this is like a standard adventure fare. I think you're going to go around and you're going to get little bits here and there, and then you'll have to solve the mystery. So it actually sounds pretty decent.
Yeah, it's a PC. That's interesting.
Exactly. So there's already a page up, and Tim, I think the GameSpot article that we're linking to actually does link to the Steam page. So if you want to pre-order that game, I think that's available to you. But so excited that Tron is not like just dead on the vine. That they're actually doing something with the license, because I can't even remember the last Tron game that we had, or the last Tron license thing that we had. But it's really exciting that we are getting another Tron game, and hopefully it'll be pretty decent. Looks pretty good. I just got a new PC, Tim, with a halfway decent video card, so I think I'll probably check it out. So, and I like adventure games. I'm a sucker for them. If they tell a good story. I'm a sucker for a good story, period.
Right.
If it's a book, if it's a movie, it's a TV show, if it's a video game, good story makes all the difference. You guys know that book you can't put down, right? Or that show you can't stop watching. It's like next episode, next episode. I'm a sucker for a good story, always. So, okay, Tim, next news item here is very interesting. So last month we talked about them showing like this teaser for a new Tekken, and the Polygon did the article, and they're like, it better be Tekken 8.
Right.
Well, guess what, Tim? It's Tekken 8. Right. So it's hard to believe that, I remember playing the original Tekken in arcades, and here we are with Tekken 8, right? So Tekken 8 was officially announced at the Sony State of Play Showcase. Bandai Namco released a trailer featuring the first footage of the next-gen fighting game that showed Tekken mainstays Jin Kazama and Kazuya Mishima duking it out in classic Tekken fashion, but within higher fidelity than ever before. All the character models, backgrounds, and effects in the trailer are the same ones used in game. And Tim, I don't know if you saw the trailer, but golly, it looks crazy. Stated Tekken series producer Katsuhiro Harada. So there you go. Tim, it's amazing how far we've come. I think when we did the original Tekken, you remember how blocky the characters looked and everything, and now these guys look almost photorealistic. It's very interesting. So, but here's the deal, Tim. I don't think we're gonna get an arcade version of this. I think it's probably gonna skip out, and that's kind of sad. We did get an arcade version of Tekken 7. But I don't know if we're going to get one in Tekken 8. I don't know if it's on their list of stuff to do or not. So we'll see.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make one.
Right. Now, Tim, here's another thing. Another arcade sequel that's not coming out in the arcade. Taito rail shooter Operation Wolf gets brand new game 35 years later.
Wow.
Operation Wolf. Now, Tim, we've been to a lot of arcade auctions, Tim. And how many Operation Wolves have you seen in your lifetime?
A bunch.
A bunch, because heavy games just never sell at the auction, right? Like, they don't. And Operation Wolves, because they have the little pedestal and the guns, guess what? There's a ton of them out there, and they're heavy as all get out, and they don't usually go for very much. But it is a fun game, for those of you guys who have not played it, and I'm glad that we're getting this new version of it. So a new Operation Wolf game is being released on consoles this fall. The game will be an on-rails light gun shooter reminiscent of the 1987 arcade game with a new art style. In the game campaign, play solo or co-op locally as special agents tasked to fight a criminal organization. The agents are sent on location to dismantle the consortium, eliminate the weapons, and free the hostages from various prisoner camps. Oh, doesn't it sound great?
Right.
So, but it sounds very reminiscent, like it says, of the original game. And so, Tim, anytime they can do a sequel for an arcade game from the 80s, I'm like all in typically. So I will definitely give this one a shot for sure. Tim, you have any specific memories of Operation Wolf as far as playing it? I mean, we've played it at probably a million arcade auctions.
I just remember going into the operator's warehouse and seeing like a whole basket full of those guns.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff, they would just be everywhere.
Absolutely. YouTube Punk says Operation Wolf's attract mode and demo play is iconic. Yes, if you've seen it before, you definitely remember from the arcades. It is a fun game. And they made more than one. I forget how many sequels they got, Tim. I think I want to say 3. Did they get like 3? Because you had like... You had like Operation Thunderbolt was like a sequel, and there were some other ones. I can't remember all the different sequels to it, but it is a fun game. I like on-rails light gun shooters, Tim, and my son does too, because obviously I've talked about this before. I have put more money in Rothrail's Jurassic Park than probably any game in recent memory. In fact, I probably have put enough to buy one almost. I did look up the price, Tim. $20,000 is a little high for me for a Jurassic Park, but I'm probably close if I add up all the money that I've spent on it. So on-rails shooters are fun. I don't care what anybody says. I like them, and they're still fun. They're still fun. So I'm looking forward to this one. Hopefully it'll be fun. If you have any memories of Operation Wolf, let us know. Maybe did your local arcade have one? Is a really great question.
For real.
So because I think ours did. I think the Mazzio's that I went to, Mazzio's Pizza here in town, actually did have one.
I definitely remember one at the mall.
Yeah, I don't remember playing it that much until I met up with you and we started going to like arcade auctions.
I played it probably more at auction, getting ready.
Say.
Just because nobody would be playing it, it would be just sitting there a lot of times. I would just try it.
Exactly. So I probably didn't play it a whole lot until after I got into like arcade collecting. But I do remember them being around. It's definitely a game that you saw quite a bit. So now, Tim, obviously this is something that they announced, between last episode and this one. We did talk about this being a rumor that this was going to be announced, and now that rumor has been confirmed, Tim. And that is Stern's James Bond 007 pinball table. So, the George Gomez designed game will initially come in Pro, which is a Dr. No styled game, Premium, You Only Live Twice, and Limited Edition Thunderball models. All editions have an Aston Martin DB5 that ejects the ball through its roof, a 3-bank drop target that protects the Spectre Bird 1 rocket that moves when hit, and a Thunderbird underwater fight scene hidden underneath the playfield, which is kind of cool. So, have you seen any gameplay or layout of this?
I have not seen it yet.
Looks pretty cool.
Okay.
I will say. I always reserve judgment for when we actually get to play it. So, now, Tim, you've played the last couple of new Sterns. I haven't. You found them to be pretty good, right?
I'm very impressed with a couple of them.
Actually. I know Stranger Things. I'd say you've definitely revered Stranger Things. Now, obviously, they had a Godzilla. What do you think about Godzilla?
Godzilla was one of those games that I felt that even when I was playing there, it stayed pretty busy, and I kind of played it a little bit more. And I know Mark is a huge Godzilla fan, and I would have to say that the more I play it, the more I'm liking it. So I don't know that it's still high on my wish list, but definitely do like the game. The more I play it, the more I like it. I really have. The more I give it time.
So hopefully, once you go up to North Carolina, maybe you will see a you'll see a 007 if you get a chance to play it. Let us know. So because I definitely want to try it out. So,
me too.
On the 22nd, I'm going to Dallas. Kind of as a guy's trip to go to the National Video Game Museum. Going to Frisco because I haven't been there before.
How fun.
And I know they have an arcade there. But maybe I can talk my buddies into going to Free Play or somewhere like that, and we can try some of these new pinball machines. Because I have not gotten a chance to play a lot of these new pinball machines. Just haven't been able to go to,
where they are.
all these different things. So it is what it is. But anyway, so hopefully I'll get a chance to do that. Hopefully you will too. Really want to try out the 007 for sure. Let's see. Eric says, I remember playing many hours of Double Dragon Pole Position and Operation Wolf at the grocery store in 86. Mm-hmm. So grocery store. Yeah, arcade games in grocery stores, Tim.
I remember that.
You remember that?
First time I ever played Pac-Man was at a grocery store.
Joe says, played Operation Wolf in the wild and loved it, but put way too many quarters in it. There you go. So it is a fun game, and overbuilt on the fun days of old. Yeah, absolutely. So our grocery store, Tim, that I used to do, that's where I played a lot of the games that I love now. There's a Walmart and a grocery store. The Walmart had Mortal Kombat 1 when it first came out, and I remember just kids being around that all the time, like playing Mortal Kombat 1. And our grocery store had several of the Capcom fighters. Okay. So, which is where I played a lot of those Capcom fighting games and things. So, Real Hammer Billy Lee, after Operation Thunderbolt, there was Operation Wolf 3 and Operation Tiger. Yeah, okay. I remember Operation Thunderbolt. I remember seeing Operation Wolf 3. I do not remember Operation Tiger.
I do not either. Thank you for that.
Yeah, exactly. Because, some of those, I don't remember all these games, guys. There's too many arcade games to name them all. So, but good stuff. Now, Tim already mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it one more time just to remind people. Let's see, limited quantity of Arcade 1-Up risers available. So, and like I said, Tim, you can see how many I have there. So, I was able to secure a very limited quantity of risers for a reduced price, selling them for $35 each, plus whatever it costs to ship to them. If you're interested, please email me at jonathan@arcaderepairtips.com with your shipping address, and I will give you a quote on how much it'll cost you and send you an invoice for the total amount if you're interested. So, just a reminder. So, Joe says, Raleigh, North Carolina here. I can show you around all the tiny hole-in-the-wall places, Tim.
Oh, good.
So there you go.
I don't know how far that is from Beaufort, but I will be in Beaufort.
There you go.
South Carolina.
Okay. Tim, before we wrap up, I do want to talk about something that dropped just today, and that is the Super Mario Brothers movie trailer.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you watch it?
I did see that.
What did you think?
It looks pretty interesting.
I actually like it. I know that Chris Pratt is getting a lot of hate from a lot of people about like accents and things like this.
Yeah.
It sounded okay.
I thought it was fine.
I'm okay with it. I don't know. So, if you guys have seen the trailer, though, let us know what you think. I'd love to hear it. We're about to move into the after show, guys. We're wrapping up the regular live show. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to get those in before we wrap this up. Of course, they're always welcome in the after show as well. But Tim, the only difference between this show and the after show is that anything goes, right?
Right.
Like, any question is open, not just arcade repair related stuff. So, but anyway, let's see. I'm just reading through here. Okay, I think we're good. Are we good? Okay, so I think we're pretty much caught up. Tim, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here as a reminder to everybody that we always do. We want your arcade-related videos. If you want some free advertising for your YouTube channel, we're always looking for people to submit short videos, 10 minutes or less, about arcade repair-related topics. If you send a link to your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com, our staff will review it. If we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure you put a plug in for your channel so people will know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. So there you go. Always looking for that, Tim. As you know, we've played many of these like before the live show, kind of in that little pre-show, view and stuff like that. So if you guys want some free advertising for you, a lot of you guys may be on just the cusp of getting monetized with YouTube. If that's the case, let us drive some traffic your way and help you out. So again, questions@arcaderepairtips.com if you want to do that. And let's talk about the ways you can get in contact with us, guys. We have our general email at questions@arcaderepairtips.com, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. If you put live show in the subject, we will save it specifically for the show. Otherwise, we'll try to get around to it when we get an opportunity to. That's questions@arcaderepairtips.com. So we also have our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. Of course, those of you guys in the live chat know this, but if you're listening to this on the podcast, then you may not. But we do cover the comments from the last live show on the next episode. We try to. So if you guys leave comments comments on this episode 68. We will try to cover any questions you have on episode 69. But you can find the YouTube video for this particular episode at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. And Tim, something to remind everybody is if you are listening to the audio version of this, if you want to listen to the after show, you need to look up the video for this episode to do that. We do not put the after show on the audio podcast feed. And speaking of the audio podcast feed, Tim, we do have that on iTunes. We have that at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com. We have a Spotify page at spotify.arcaderepairtips.com and a Stitcher radio page at stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com or wherever you find wonderfully great podcasts. How about that, Tim? Is that a good way to say it?
Sounds the best way to say it.
If you do a search for Arcade Repair, you'll probably find us. So there you go. But we always have the live show audio on that feed, Tim, but we also have some interviews from time to time. Whenever Eric and, whenever they get around to and Rusty end up doing the question and answer podcast again, if they ever do, we would put that up there. But it's more than just this show now. It's kind of our entire feed's worth of stuff. So again, you can find it on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And then we have our social media pages, Tim. We have our Facebook page at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com, facebook.arcaderepairtips.com, and we have our Twitter page at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. You guys can find us at both those locations. We do cross-post the information, so if you follow one or the other, you don't necessarily have to follow both. Same information can be found in both places. And we do want to thank Mark, our community manager, for his contributions as well, Tim. I always want to make sure that we thank him. He does a really great job with Pinball News especially. So thank you, Mark, for all of the work that you put in, and we do appreciate it. And make sure if you guys like arcade related news, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We'll have plenty of it there for you. Well, Tim, I think this is the end of the regular live show. Now we got a couple of things here. Jeff says, "Hey guys, this will be a whole new time to discuss, but has the arcade game Polybius ever been identified and authenticated? LOL, I want one or to make one." So big rumor there. Jeff, but a lot of people have made custom-built ones and I think there is actually like a game that you can load on it that's supposedly like the real one. Polybius is just an urban legend, right, Tim?
I think so.
It's all an urban legend as far as we know.
Yet to play it.
Who was the one that did the whole breakdown on that? Was it Catherine? What's her name? I can't remember her last name. I'm sorry. But there's a whole like urban legend breakdown on it that you can read on some of the websites out there. But yeah, I think for the most part, just an urban legend somebody made up. So I know that makes it less special in a way, Tim, but it is what it is. If you want to build one if you want to build a multi-cane and put Polybius on the top, go for it.
For sure.
Absolutely. So Joe says that Buford is way south North Carolina. If you get bored, I highly recommend Grandy. There's a pinball museum there, he says.
Oh, nice.
So there you go. And YouTube Punk says urban legend as well. Let's see. Angry Nerd did an episode on it. Kat Despira, thank you.
Yes.
Kat Despira was the one. She has a great article series on it that you should read. So if you want to know about Polybius. But yeah, it's urban legend. So I wish I could tell you better than that. Let me remind everybody, last chance to get in on a nice portable soldering iron and AC voltage detector. If you guys send an email to contest@arcaderepairtips.com with your shipping address, we will pick a winner at random and hopefully ship this to you, whoever you are. Right, Tim?
That's right.
So there you go. So this is a nice one to keep in like your portable toolbox when you're going out to places. Nice thing to have with you. And of course, this is nice for all sorts of different things. Not just arcade, but household things as well. AC voltage detector. So we will ship this to you should you win the contest. And so we will notify you via email. Make sure you put your shipping address in the email. Contest@arcaderepairtips.com. Send us an email there, and we will pick a winner and send it to you. Tim, is there anything else before we wrap up the live show? What do you got for the after show?
Well, we're going to talk. We got a lot of sports to talk about. Some shows that we've been talking about.
I've been busy.
You've been busy. Been pretty busy. So we're going to have plenty to talk about.
That's right. So I went to a concert.
Okay.
I went to a baseball game.
Okay.
Let's see. And I've watched a ton of stuff since then. The one I will tell you about a show that I was okay. How about that? And I will tell you about a show that I was 2 thumbs up on.
Okay.
So you'll get kind of a whole thing. And me and Tim have watched. Let's talk about the 3 things that we've watched together, and we'll discuss those.
Okay.
Elvis,
right,
which was on HBO Max. Mike on Hulu, which is about Mike Tyson, and Facing Nolan, which is a documentary about Nolan Ryan on Netflix. So we will definitely be discussing those in the after show if you want to stick around and hear about that. So, but other than that, I think this will be it for the regular live show. So if this is where your off ramp is, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. We want to thank the live chat for being here. Tim, we had a lot of people here tonight. It was really great. We want to thank Tex JYT for donating $20. Tim, technically, he's a producer tonight of the show, so because he donated. So thank you for being a producer. We're gonna put you in the credits if we had any. We put you there. And then we again just thanks to everybody who chimed in, who gave people who asked questions, people who helped other people. Guys, it's just like a big family around here.
Right.
We might as well call this place the Olive Garden, Tim, because when you're here,
or your family.
Your family. That's right. So there we go. Okay, but. Again, this concludes the regular live show episode. If you stick around for 5 more minutes, we'll start getting into the after show where we'll talk about some different topics. But if this is your off-ramp here, thank you for being here for episode 68 of the live show. And we do want to remind you that when you're here at Arcade Repair Tips, when you fix the game,
you play the game.
Take care, everybody. Yeah, we'll see you either in the after show or we'll see you next month for the regular live show. And look forward to that. Happy Halloween, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
And we're back. So we're here for the after show. We want to thank everybody for sticking around. It was only like 5 minutes, right, Tim?
Yeah.
YouTube Punk says we need a Dom Toretto Olive Garden commercial. So there you go. Yeah, when you're here, your family, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I thought we had a really good show.
Yeah, I think so. It was a live chat over there for sure. Thank you guys for a lot of new people, so thank y'all for being here.
Absolutely. So it was fun. We always enjoy doing the live shows for you guys. It's entertaining for us, entertaining for y'all. And we're just glad to have all y'all here. So now, Tim, let's talk about, this is the after show. So, I mean, if you guys have questions or if you want to talk about, a lot of times, Tim, we talk about TV shows. So if you've been watching any TV shows or movies, let us know. Because, you know, we're always looking for stuff to watch. Tim, I will say lately, though, I have an overabundance of stuff to watch, I feel like.
Me too.
I have way more than what I can watch.
Almost overwatching.
Yes, exactly. So, which is why I have not gotten around to Dahmer that you mentioned that you'd been watching earlier. So we'll wait on that one for a little bit. We don't get right into the TV shows, but if you guys want to go ahead and chime in with some of those in the live chat, feel free to do that as well. Now, Tim, how'd your September go? You have a pretty good September?
It was good.
You obviously took a trip. We know you've been busy, so anything else?
No, just it flew by. You know, somebody said, "What's the famous song? Wake me up when September ends." I barely woke up and September was gone. It was just like seemed like it. I mean, here we are. We're pretty soon. Next week we're in the middle of October.
That's right.
And Halloween's just around the corner, and so
I got my shirt
and
on.
holidays are coming up quick. So you know, it's this time seems to be flying by.
Agreed. So my September was pretty awesome. Had a great one. Tim, I went to a Ranger game on September 24th. So I got to take the kids and my wife, and we had a good time.
How did the kids? How do they do at the ballpark?
You know what? They lasted way longer than I thought they would.
Really?
And they're older now. When we've taken them in the past, they didn't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
We left pretty early. One of the things that helps is that the Texas Rangers now have an indoor stadium, so you can go, like, it was 95 outside, but it's 75
cooler
inside. You know?
Yeah.
So me and Tim went the first time together that we'd both been there. So I mean, he knows. I mean, it's very nice inside. The tickets were not expensive because we'd already been mathematically eliminated.
Right.
So they were very cheap. I was happy about that. We got some really great tickets. So I was very excited about that. Yeah, it was fun. Had a great time. So, Delusionals Arcade says, I'm always happy to see the live show. I know firsthand what it takes to run a live show, not for the faint of heart. So we appreciate you. Thank you, Delusionals Arcade. I know you know what it takes because you have live shows as well. I've checked a couple of them out, and you sympathize with a lot of what we go through, I'm sure. So, and I understand it because it is not easy anymore, and it is a tough thing. I'm glad that we are able to do it still, Tim, because it can be challenging. And I'm so glad that me and him are in the same room again because during COVID that kind of really sucked. So I'm just glad that me and Tim can be here together. Not that we can't do it remote again if we wanted to,
but we said, this is the one time a month that we get to hang out.
Exactly.
Most of the time we got
We're
family
so
stuff and jobs and things, church, who knows what else.
Yeah.
So we're glad to get to hang out. It's a time for us to hang out, and we get to hang out with our friends.
Exactly. So it's much better when we're together here at the world headquarters instead of like Tim at his house and me here kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's difficult. It can be quite a challenge, but appreciate you saying that, Delusional, and I would reciprocate the same to you. So that we appreciate you as well. Because here's the thing, guys. The community of people who cover arcade stuff, guys, we're simpatico with you guys. So like Delusionals Arcade and Regzer Show and all these other guys who are out there doing this stuff, Tim, we understand and we want to support you guys because, I mean, the more information that's out there, the better, right?
Exactly.
More information that's out there about arcade repair, the better. That's what we come down to. And if it's us delivering it, or it's Delusionals Arcade delivering it, or if it's Regzer Show delivering it, or whoever's delivering it, Paul Duray delivering it, whoever it is, if it's valuable information and it's out there and they're doing a good job at it, we want you to continue doing it. So, I mean, because that's what it comes down to. All the stuff that we know about these games should be documented because, we're not going to live forever. No. Y'all aren't going to live forever, and somebody's going to dig up these things 100 years from now, and they're going to be like, what in the world is this? Right. So hopefully there will be enough video evidence for them to figure it out. So yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a daunting task, but we appreciate you as well. Thank you for appreciating us too. So is that a good way to say it? Reciprocal.
Great way.
So there we go. So anyway, I went to a Texas Ranger game, had a good time with the family. Very good time. I went to a music concert.
Okay.
For a very famous Christian musician, Tim, if you're familiar with Toby Mac.
Very familiar.
Have you listened to his new album?
I have listened to some of the songs. I have not heard the whole album.
Do you know what his whole album is about?
I do not.
The entire album is pretty much about his son, which he lost to a fentanyl overdose.
I figured that it was something along those lines. And his son was very talented, too.
Yes, he was. He had just done a concert that night. He was 21 years old.
Wow.
And so it's a sad story, but Toby Mac kind of took that and kind of wrapped it up and all of his feelings and everything and made this new album. And it's a very good album. Me and my wife, we listened to a lot of the songs on it. We enjoy it a lot.
How was he in live?
Fantastic. Dude, now, okay, for those of you guys who don't know the history of Toby Mac, he's been around since DC Talk time, right, Tim?
Right.
I mean, it's been a long time. This guy is not young. And he will sit there and jump around for 2.5 hours. I mean, that's basically what he did. He jumped around on stage for 2.5 hours and sang, and it was awesome.
Did your kids like it?
We took Olivia, and she had a really good time. Yeah,
good.
my daughter. So, but yeah, it was. So if you're not familiar with the story of Toby Mac, it's a sad story. Lost his son to a fentanyl overdose, and basically his new album is all about how he's dealing with that. And so it goes from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs kind of thing. And
right.
So, it's very good. And I bought the album even though I don't have a CD player hardly anywhere anymore. And we listen to everything on Spotify. I bought the album too because I do want to support that. YouTube Punk DC Talk. I remember jamming to them. Yes, W Mac DC Talk. Remember this? So but
I remember when they were teenagers.
I mean, he's a Christian artist, but like a lot of his music's not necessarily Christian. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, when I say not necessarily, I mean it's not like just 100% focused on it, right?
Right.
Some of it's just
about
good
life,
music, right? Exactly. Some of it's just about life. So I mean, you can listen to Toby Mac. You don't have to necessarily be a Christian to do that.
If you never heard him, you should give him a listen.
Absolutely, good music. And like I said, the latest album is fantastic, and he's a fantastic musician. Jumping all over the place for 2.5 hours. Can't ask for more at a concert. So, Javi Jerry says, thanks for the years of information and tips, guys. Thank you for saying the comments.
I know, I was just looking at episode 68. That means that's 5 years, 8 months.
That's right.
5 years, 8
Didn't
months.
we talk about once we can't get to 100.
Right.
That's like a rule. If we get to 100, then we've been doing it too long. We're going to have to name it something else or change formats or something. So, So, I mean, yeah, we're getting along, Tim. We're getting along. We're not getting any younger, that's for sure. But yeah, anyway, Toby Mac concert was excellent. Had a great time. Got to see him. So, let's talk about some other things here, Tim. I don't want to talk about investment talk, even though I have it on the outline, because it has been rough.
What's that noise they make on Price is Right when they lose? It's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Or Pac-Man's like.
Yeah. What's the sad trombone?
Yeah, the sad.
Wah, 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 wah.
That's investing right now. We won't talk about it this time.
There you go.
Good time to buy.
That's right. Exactly.
All stocks on sale.
Just keep putting money into your 401k. That's all you need to know. Just keep putting money into that. You'll be fine. So, investing, guys, has been rough lately. Golly, the economy sucks. And there's just nothing else to say about that, but the economy sucks.
Right.
Now, like Tim said, good time to buy if you've got the money. Unfortunately, I know a lot of your budgets have been eaten up by inflation and other things.
I sold some stock that I bought when gas was really low. Whenever it got down to $19 a barrel, I bought some oil stocks, and I sold them recently and made some money, but it took a while.
Right.
So just be smart with your investments. There's still money to be made out there. You just have to be patient.
Yes, absolutely. So, and if you buy now and you hold for a while, especially on big stocks, you'll probably be okay. Because the market will correct. It just takes some time.
Good time to buy some of the well knowns.
Yes, stuff's cheap right now, so you can definitely get, like I said, it at a good deal. Joe, I signed up for Robinhood based on you guys. Truly love it. I'm glad that you like Robinhood. Joe, we've talked about Robinhood. We still have accounts on Robinhood, but we've moved most of our trading to other platforms because of the way that the GameStop stuff went down. And we still don't like that.
Which reminds me, we'll talk about this because it's after show. Have you seen there's a new Netflix documentary on the GameStop?
I saw that.
And I haven't watched it.
There's like 3 or 4 documentaries on the whole thing.
Yeah, and I want to watch that. So that's on my watch list. I haven't seen it yet.
Robinhood is a good platform. The only thing we didn't like about it is the way that they treated the GameStop traders. They basically stopped them from trading the stock when they wanted to get out at the top, which is not right. Now, they have since... They're paying fines based on that. They were the federal government came down on them hard, and they are being fined for that. But with that in mind, I mean, look, nothing wrong with having your money there. I think I've moved most of mine to other accounts. I may still have a little bit in Robinhood, but I mean, you can continue to do that. Just that kind of stuff was too shady for us to stay there. That's why we've moved to like Webull, which is the other one that we use, and some of the other ones out there. But nothing wrong with Robinhood. And Robinhood right now, Tim, I think they've got like a little money market account where you can gain some money too, which is a lot of other places don't have. So you can just at least put some money in the money market and get 2 to 3%.
Right.
Which, I mean, right now is really good.
Right.
So absolutely. So, but anyway, let's see. Alan, Bill, and Ted are really looking forward to the next episode. So I don't know. So there you go. What else do we have here, Tim? Now, investment talk.
Well, there's a lot to talk about sports.
Yeah.
We've been...
so we're done with the investment talk.
Yeah, there wasn't much to talk about there.
Yeah. So sports, we got football is in season. Is that what we should say?
Prime time.
I am rocking this.
Right.
Regretfully, I feel like I don't know
Could
if
change
I should
next
be.
week, right?
Exactly.
We're being cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, here's the deal. I've said since the beginning of this season that we're going to suck. And
Yeah.
so I'm still holding to the fact that we're going to suck because as long as I do that, then they'll keep winning, hopefully. So I'm still not going to care, and I feel like when I care less, they do better. So
do you think there's a quarterback controversy, or do you think it's just a matter of time Dak will come back and be the quarterback?
So I was listening to some of my sports radio, Tim, and they were talking about third down conversions. Okay, so that's how you really rate a good quarterback. What is Cooper Rush's third down conversion rate?
60%.
No, it's like 10.
What
what is Dak's third down conversion rate?
I don't know. It's high. It's
40.
like
40.
40. Yeah.
So with that in mind, I mean, I think even
that is a telltale sign of a really moving the ball down the field.
Exactly. And so I think with that in mind, you have to put Dak back in. But here's the deal: only if he's 100%.
Right.
You do not rush him.
No.
You keep Cooper Rush in there.
And I don't think he'll play this week, especially after what happened to Tua.
Right.
You know, everybody's going to be on alert about putting people in too early. I think it's
that was terrible, by the way.
Yeah.
And he obviously had a concussion on Sunday.
Right.
I'm sorry, like he did.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody stumbles like that from a back injury.
No, he was hurt.
And nobody shakes the cobwebs out. Did you see the way he shook his head? You don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Look, as somebody who's had cobwebs, like you get rocked,
Mm-hmm.
and he got rocked, and he wanted to go back in, but like you don't do that.
Yeah,
You
so
don't.
I think we'll learn some lessons from that. But here's the deal, though. Let's say Dak comes back, has a decent season. Cooper plays occasionally or sparingly. Does Cooper rush better than 4 or 5 starting quarterbacks in the league?
I think he's the best backup in the league.
Okay,
I will
I'll
say
give him
that.
But
okay?
is he a starter? Compared to, I can think of 4 or 5 teams that aren't doing very good that look horrible at quarterback.
I think
Could he do worse?
I mean,
yeah, I'm like you. You need a good starter.
Right.
You need somebody your team rallies behind.
Great.
You need somebody your team likes.
Right.
And I think that's him. I think he's a good person to come in and say, let's make the best of it. Get the defense played well.
I was about to say, if our defense wasn't good, we wouldn't be talking about him at all.
Right.
Because there's no way they'd be winning games on offense alone. So our defense is really good. Cowboys' defense is very good, and that's what's keeping us in games. It's not the offense. The offense is serviceable. It gets the job done. But, I mean, here's the deal.
That's how you win.
Exactly.
Right?
We're winning low-scoring games because of the defense, and that's the way it is. If the offense can put up 2 touchdowns, then we're going to win the game because we have a good enough defense, and that's all it comes down to. So, anyway, done with that. Okay. But, I mean, I think there's no controversy. I think you put Dak in when he's ready to go. 100% though. You don't rush him.
Right.
So that means maybe not next week either.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe so.
Definitely, he's rolled out for this week, right?
Yeah.
He's rolled out for sure. I think he's already.
Yeah, they
rolled
were really iffy at the first week, but by now I think they're saying no.
Right.
Too early.
Sucks for the Dolphins though, because the Dolphins were doing really good.
Right.
With Tua back there, and now that Tua's out, I don't know how that's going to affect them.
Right.
So
they got Is it Terry Bridgewater?
I think so. Yeah, he's his backup.
It's a pretty good backup
there.
there.
Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma boy, right?
No, he's he was playing for the Saints.
He played for the Saints, but he played
I don't
somewhere in
remember
college.
who he played in college.
So anyway.
So you're obviously a big baseball fan. Did you get into the home run?
Oh, hang on. Let's not leave football just yet.
Okay, what are we talking about?
We're talking about Texas, Oklahoma.
Oh, the Texas-Oklahoma game. So give a prediction?
We were both big fans. We're both big fans. I'm a Texas fan. He's an Oklahoma fan. And this is the Red River rivalry, which happens at State Fair at the Cotton Bowl every year. And both our teams were ranked at one point.
Right. and they played good at one point.
And both our teams are unranked now and are not playing very good.
No.
So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen on Saturday.
Our quarterback is out.
Okay.
They're not going to start him.
Same
thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think we had the same thing. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen there. But we'll see. Mm-hmm. Do you want to make any friendly wagers on this?
We can make a wager. What should the stakes be?
I don't know. I was trying to think. We'll think about it.
Okay.
Maybe the people in the live chat can tell us what the stakes should be. We'll leave it to you. So, okay, I will leave it there. And if they don't say anything, then we'll have to come up with something ourselves. So, baseball. Baseball season just wrapped up, Tim. So, 162 games played. We're about to get into the postseason. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I wish the Rangers were there, but they're not. The Aaron Judge ball, I was very big into. Obviously, that happened in Texas.
Yes.
In Arlington. And so, the outfield tickets were going for $400. To catch that ball, and then the guy who caught it, I think his wife works for one of the big Dallas
like a news
stations.
reporter.
She's a news reporter for one of the big stations around here, and they've already offered him $2 million. Like an auction house has already offered him $2 million for it. So he's gonna get a payday. He should do it quick though, because you never know that the value of that ball can go down real quick.
Right.
I mean, if Aaron Judge tested positive for steroids tomorrow, that's it.
Right.
So,
I don't think he will.
I don't think he will either.
I
saying.
like it. I do. Do you like Aaron Judge?
I do like Aaron Judge.
Yeah, he's hard not to like.
Right. And I should say this.
He kind of has a humble, but he's a little cocky, but still humble.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He can he still seems like a decent guy.
Yeah. Look, the dude is big. He's like 6'8".
He's huge.
Yeah, I was about to say that's how he hits all those home runs.
Yeah.
But look, I'm not a Yankee hater.
Right.
The reason I don't like the Yankees is because their fans are arrogant.
Right.
Okay, that's the reason I don't like the Yankees.
Okay.
Yankees are fine as a team. If you're just calling the Yankee baseball team, I have a problem. With that said, I'm going to commend all the Yankee fans out there who donated to the Rangers Foundation because we actually pitched to Aaron Judge. Did you hear about this?
I did hear
So
about
a whole bunch of Yankees fans donated to the Rangers Foundation, which is a great charity, because we actually pitched to Aaron Judge and let him get the record. Look, that's awesome. So, I mean, I can't say anything bad about that. But the arrogant Yankee fans out there, just slow your roll, guys. Just slow your roll. That's all I'm saying. So just, we know your baseball team is good. I get it. You don't have to rub it in my face every 10 seconds. Okay, we're good. So, there we go.
It's interesting that he turned down all the money and is a free agent after this year.
Yes.
Smart move?
In hindsight, yes. But who would have thought?
Would it be cool, though, if he went to the National League?
It would be.
To me, I think, and get into some real home run ballparks,
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, National League pitching is better.
I think so.
Across the board. So I think he would probably have an adjustment period. Oh, Delusional's Arcade says he's a Yankees fan. Look.
Well, of course he is.
Yeah, of course. I was about to say, nothing wrong with Yankees fans. Just, like I said, just cut out all the arrogant stuff. We're good. Okay? So, I mean, I don't have any problem. I mean, like I said, there was a lot of great Yankees fans who donated to the Rangers Foundation after the Aaron Judge thing. You guys are great guys. It's just that when we played you guys in the playoffs, I've had some Yankee fans spit on me, try to get into fights with me, some other things. I went to a lot of those games. I understand. So those guys, I'm sorry. Let's just cut that stuff out. You know what I'm saying? If you're not a Yankee fan like that, I got no problem with you. Got no problem with your team. So, but just cut the other stuff out, But
it was interesting to watch. And, I noticed I was watching football last Saturday and they kept breaking.
They cut in, yeah.
Yeah, they would cut in. I was like, I don't blame them. It was much better than watching Oklahoma lose. And every time he would bat, and I thought, this is cool to get to watch it. Because we'll talk about this, watching Nolan Ryan's film, and the time that he had his 7th no-hitter, it wasn't even televised.
Right.
Can you imagine? It wasn't even televised. So it's like they had to get the film from Canada or something.
Exactly.
It was kind of
Toronto,
it was kind of crazy that it, stuff like that. So anyway, I know you're a big baseball fan. So you did watch the documentary on Nolan Ryan, didn't you?
Yes, I did. So I guess we're going to go ahead and move into that. We've caught up all the way.
Sure, why not?
So let's talk about our TV shows and movies. And me and Tim always like to talk about stuff we've watched jointly. So Tim texted me. He said, hey, I watched the Nolan Ryan documentary Facing Nolan on Netflix. And so I said, well, I'm going to check it out before the live show so we can talk about it together. So Facing Nolan is a documentary about Nolan Ryan. It tells the history of his entire career along with people who faced him, which is very interesting. So, but before we get into this, Delusional says he was forced to be a Mets fan as a kid, aka child abuse. Yeah, during that time. Right now is a really good time to be a Mets fan. I'm just saying, like right now is a great time to be a Mets fan. But I understand Yankees are a good team. Totally get it. Like I said, nothing wrong with Yankees or the Yankees fans as long as you're not being one of those arrogant fans. But so that kind of stuff. So let's talk about Facing Nolan, though. Getting back to this. So Facing Nolan was very interesting. So, Tim, speaking of the Mets, he started his career with the Mets.
Right.
The documentary talks about that. And then he moved to the Angels, got traded, went to the Astros, and then finally to the Rangers. Now, Tim, he hit a lot of his milestones when he was with the with the Rangers. And one of the things that the documentary points out is he was a better pitcher with the Rangers than he was with any other team he pitched for.
Right.
Based on the numbers, which is very interesting.
Because he learned he had control and he threw a curve that was just crazy.
Exactly.
It wasn't just fastball.
Right.
You didn't know what you were going to get. And he could throw a changeup.
And he had a changeup. But, but the thing that everybody remembers Nolan for, chin music, man.
Yeah.
Chin music. Yeah. That's right. Pitching inside.
Yeah.
Man, I wish we could see that more now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, if he wanted you off that plate, guess what? You're moving.
Yeah.
You're moving off the plate.
Right.
So, he would bat guys off.
And I'll never forget, in the documentary, it shows when Bo Jackson hit a ball that hit him in the mouth.
Yeah.
You remember this? And and then he's up there pitching with blood all over his shirt. And that was so interesting to see, was it a George Brett or somebody they were George talking Brett. About? He goes, I got to face Nolan Ryan. He's up there he was already intimidating. He's up there with blood all over his shirt. I'm thinking, what am I doing here?
That's a famous picture.
Nobody wanted to face him.
Nolan Ryan has a Rangers jersey on. He's got blood all over and he's got busted lip. If you've never seen that picture, I've seen it a million times. I love that picture. So
yeah, he's had to have stitches afterwards. He was just still pitching, It's like, but I guess the documentary I thought was excellent, by the way. Highly recommend if you're just any kind of baseball fan. Even if you're not a Nolan Ryan fan, I think you'll like the documentary. It was very interesting.
For me, the thing that was nice about it was that I remember all those milestones. Mm-hmm. I remember the 300th win. I remember the 7th no-hitter, even though we couldn't watch on TV. I was listening to it on the radio.
Right. Oh, wow.
I remember the 5,000 strikeout. I was watching it.
That.
And I remember all that stuff. And so, watching the documentary just brought up all that. And Tim, you'll see I have all these Nolan Ryan things up here in the game room. That picture right there that you guys can't see, I could take it down. But, my next door neighbor, we took him to a Ranger game when Nolan Ryan was pitching, and he had a really nice camera, like his dad had a really nice camera. I was friends with the son.
I never knew this story.
And so we took him, and we were sitting right behind the visitor dugout, Tim. Okay, right behind the visitor, 4 rows back. And he took that picture, and this is in the summertime, and then for Christmas that year, he gave us that frame in that picture.
Wow!
And you'll see the way that he's throwing the ball right there, and then up in the corner of this picture, I have a plastic cling of him in the exact same motion in a visitor outfit, pitching away. But man, Nolan Ryan he oozes Texas, Tim. He is like if you think Texas, you think Cowboys and Nolan Ryan. That's what you think of. You know what I'm saying? And so, Nolan Ryan was the quintessential Texan.
And what's interesting is them trying to, during the early careers, trying to measure his speed.
Yes. And
there's a lot of controversy about, because we all know he could throw 100 miles an hour.
Right.
But there's estimates that in his prime, even though he was very wild, it could have been as fast as 107 or 108 miles an hour.
That is correct.
Which would technically be the fastest pitches ever thrown, although that has never been proven.
Correct. So, but Facing Nolan was a really good documentary. It's on Netflix right now. Highly recommend you check it out. And these are all kind of documentary or docudrama style shows that we've watched. We watched, both of us watched the Mike Tyson series on Hulu, which is a dramatization. It's not a documentary like the Facing Nolan was. So a dramatization, and it's very good. I enjoyed Mike. What did you think, Tim?
I really liked it. It kind of really... kind of explained some things of how he behaved and what he did and stuff. And I think in the end, it really makes you have some compassion for him. And even though there was I remember when Mike Tyson was just beating everybody in the first, second round. I remember when he beat Leon Spinks, and I thought to myself, I said, that guy just got paid $11 million to get hit one time.
Right.
And I thought he faked it. It's like, there's no way that guy's that tough. And then you go back and you see that he really probably was that tough. And I still wouldn't mess with him. But how that over his life he changed and, mistakes that he made and things like that. It was a very interesting documentary.
I agreed. So I liked it a lot. And like I said, not really a documentary, more docudrama. So one of the things at the very end, he says something that stuck with me, and I still think about. He says, "We're not all just one thing."
Right.
That's it's like the very end of it. That's what he says. We're not all just one thing. We're not all good. We're not all bad. We're not all just one thing. And that's what you'll learn throughout the docudrama is that Mike Tyson was not all good or all bad. He had times when he was good. He had times when he was bad. But we're not all just one thing.
Exactly.
And just like it said, and that's really stuck with me because I mean it's true. So, and then the other one we both watched, Tim, was the Elvis movie on HBO Max. Now you'd watched it before me, and I watched it after you. I watched it in about 3 settings because I can't. It's 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours.
It was
right?
very long.
So it took me a while to get through it, but I did get through it, and it was very interesting. I think it does a really good job showing Elvis's impact on pop culture and also showing kind of how he came to be Elvis.
Right.
But one thing is for sure, and if you didn't know this already, Colonel Tom Parker is a crook.
Yeah, he is.
So.
And I thought it was sad, though, when you think about Elvis never went abroad.
Right.
Never had a concert in London or anywhere, and how much more popular he could have been.
Right.
And why he did all the Vegas shows. And now it makes total sense. Yep. You're like, oh, well, no wonder. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it really explains that a lot. If you haven't seen that, you'll get the answer to that question. Why is Vegas known for Elvis?
Exactly. So you should watch it. I thought it was good.
I did too.
So all these things we recommend. So the Mike series on Hulu we recommend. Facing Nolan highly recommended. Elvis recommend. Now Elvis is long, so it'll take you a little while to get through it, but it's worth the time, in my opinion. Tim, now you mentioned Dahmer, which is like I said, right now the number one is slated to be the number one Netflix series of all time if it keeps going, if the views keep going the way they've been going.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about Dahmer because I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to watch it.
Well, I'll tell you, I have friends that said, "Don't watch it. It's evil. I've got a bad feeling about it. Don't watch it. You shouldn't stir up that kind of stuff." The last episode, I think they're very wrong. This is one of the best set documentaries I ever have, and it will create.
Now, Mr. Dwayne, I think, has been said
discussion.
He's been watching it too, and he says it's very disturbing.
Yes, it is very hard to watch until you get to the end. It is true to life. I mean, it's not a glamorous story. It's a bad, awful story, but it kind of it kind of explains what could happen to some person to cause them to do such awful things. Mm-hmm. And was it somebody's fault? Was it his parents' fault? Was it his upbringing? Or they're just bad seeds? And it goes, and Jonathan, you'll appreciate this. And then I'll pose this question. We're in the after show right now. Is it possible that, and like I said, I'll be careful how I ask this. I know we don't like to get into religion or politics much, but is it possible that Jeffrey Dahmer was forgiven? I will say it's not uncommon. There's 3 things that I want to pose everybody to watch it and ask yourself. There's 3 people that highlights. One would be John Wayne Gacy, because he did make I'm going to heaven. I don't care what you do to me. I'm forgiven. All right. Jeffrey Dahmer says, there's a lot of difference between me and him. He really is not sorry. He goes, he claims that John Wayne Gacy's repentance was not genuine. And he says that his is. He was also killed by a guy who claimed he was doing the work of God. Mm-hmm. And so you've got the religious guy that actually killed Jeffrey Dahmer. So who was in the wrong? Who really... if anybody ends up in heaven, which of them 3 ends up there? That's my question. So
that's interesting.
It's a good topic to discuss because, one of the things that Jeffrey Dahmer is saying, there's no way God could ever forgive me. I deserve, fry me, kill me now, I deserve to go to hell. Mm-hmm. And the priest tells him, well, have you ever heard of the thief on the cross? He didn't deserve it either. And And so there's a real good episode. And so if you can struggle through all the stuff, it's really hard to watch. And I have empathy for his victims and for the stuff and the way it happened. It's gross. I mean, there's nothing about it. But to hear the history and to really understand, and then is it really possible that somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer could actually be forgiven or could change at some point in their life? Did he really find God in prison? Was it Is it something that could really happen? And that's what my challenge would be to you. Watch it and tell me what you think later.
Okay, well, I'm still not sure if I should watch it. I still am on the fence. I'm not big on really super. I mean, look,
You don't like horror stuff much.
I don't like horror, but I mean, I like true crime. I'm a big true crime.
Well, there can't get much truer than that.
Right.
But like I said, a lot of it is not just. It doesn't actually. It does show some of the, but it's not super graphic. It tends to, you know what happened. It doesn't really go all into that, but it's leading up to how did I get this way? What was wrong with me? And so it also makes I'll say this too. There were points in his life where he really reached out, and somebody could have helped him.
Right.
And they felt they dropped the ball. The police had him arrested, and they pulled him over one night, not to destroy anything, for drunk driving. He was drunk, and he had body parts all in the car, and had they taken him to jail, he would have been busted and saved 30 people's lives. The police dropped the ball so bad in that show multiple times. His neighbor kept telling him, look, this dude is evil, something weird. I don't know what's going on in that apartment, but something ain't right. And because it was in a lower end ghetto-like area, they kept ignoring it. Well, it'll be all right, whatever. They didn't really care that some of the people that died, I don't believe. And some of the rioting and stuff we see that's happened there in Milwaukee and stuff is based on because of the way people have felt years about the cops and the way they handled that case. So it's good history to know where we came from. Anyway, we won't talk about it anymore. But
so you recommend watching it? Yes or no?
I do recommend that if you can stomach kind of some of the stuff to get to that last episode. To me, the last episode makes it all worth watching.
Is it a slow burn?
It is a slow burn.
So we're talking like Severance.
10 episodes. It's episode 10.
So Severance. This sounds a lot like Severance for me.
Yeah,
and it took me. I had to watch Severance's first episode like 3 times.
You're gonna have to really sit there and it's hard to digest. That there are people like that in the world, or was at least at one time, and what do we do with them? What could have happened? I can remember there's scenes where an instance or something would happen, and the teacher could have stopped and helped him. There was very many times when I think he wanted to be caught. He wanted help. It's kind of like we didn't put it on there. I've been watching The Patient, and the same kind of story. He wants to get help, and I think there was many times in his life he wanted a normal life, and I think he wanted a family, and he wanted everything, and he just really could not mentally. He just had a hard time.
Oh, it's sad.
To me it was sad because I saw several instances where somebody could have helped him, and it didn't happen until the end.
Golly. Okay. Well, I'll see if I can stomach the courage to watch it.
Right. What have you been watching? We'll get on the lighter side.
You had like Father Stu there too. How was that?
Father Stu was actually
that has what's his name?
Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
Actually, a very interesting story. I'll give the synopsis real quick. He likes a girl, so he goes to church.
Right.
And to impress her, he joins a church and says, I'll get baptized and whatever. And he gets baptized and his life changes. All of a sudden, I don't want to just like this girl anymore. I enjoy going to church. I want to be a priest. And so she's kind of disappointed because she's like, I want you to be my husband. And he's like, I'm selling out to God. And he literally sells out to God. And this is the story without ruining anything. And he gets sick. And he has like kind of like Lou Gehrig's disease or something. And so it's like, okay, God, I said I would be a priest and I would do all this stuff, and now I'm going to die. What gives? Do you not love me? You don't care about me? And through his struggle, he helps other people. And all the way up until the day he died, probably thousands and thousands of people he helped. And his story is very inspiring, and it's very good. It's good to watch.
That sounds way different than what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Because I saw the
He really was faking it. He just wanted to go to church. He didn't like it, and then all of a sudden he really had a real encounter with God. And when he gets baptized, he's like, "Whoa, I really feel something."
That sounds like a weird role.
I'm hearing from God. Well,
it seems like a weird role for Mark Wahlberg.
But he plays the point. He He's very athletic in the show. And he's kind of a joke in a lot. Even at the end, he never quite gives up his edge. Like, he still cusses a little, and he's like this, but God still speaks to him, and he's like, nobody should be a priest. I shouldn't be a priest. Mm-hmm. In fact, they're like, I don't think we're going to let you be a priest. And finally, they're like, this guy's real. He's like, he was like the average person. He would go into prisons and talk to people, and he's like, man, I know you're going through some, and let me tell you, God did too. And it's like, he's really he plays that part excellent. In fact, it's one of the best roles I've ever seen him play, and it's really good.
Nice. Better than Invincible?
That's close second.
Okay, I was about to say,
Invincible,
I think about Invincible.
But when you can see this role, when you know what the movie's all about, you'll see why they picked him.
I liked him in Uncharted personally. I know that was funny, good too. Anyway. Now, Joe said something about the Dahmer series. He says, Tim, thanks. I wasn't really interested in Dahmer, but your passion has convinced me to take another look.
I say that, and like I said, it's not, I don't think it is for everybody, but I like the history of it because I remember those times. I remember how scary it was for people, and nobody could figure out. But the sad part was these were people nobody knew was dead. Nobody missed them. Mm-hmm. He purposely picked victims. A lot of them were gay and stuff, and people just didn't notice them, and it was so sad. So to me, it's sad, but at the end, and the redemption really makes you think about it. And say what you want, or however you feel. It really made me question myself, because here's the deal, and we'll talk. Okay, we'll talk openly about this. I've done some things in my life that were wrong.
We all have.
Right, we all sinned and fallen short of God's glory. And for me to realize I'm probably just as bad as him in some ways. Just because I didn't do it, I might have thought it. I definitely thought about killing some people. I never thought about eating them, but I thought about killing them. And how even becoming a cannibal, how that happened, how he transitioned from just a murderer to that is told. So to learn the history of everything that happened and then how it all ended, to me, I like history. And some history's not good. Some history's hard to watch.
True.
Civil War's hard to watch.
Yeah. Ken Burns is a whole documentary right now on the Holocaust. Have you watched any of that?
I don't know. I haven't watched it yet, but I probably will.
Ken Burns' documentaries are so detailed.
Right.
Golly, I mean, they're amazing.
So very true. That's what you know that watching this movie, though. There's going to be some scenes that are hard to watch. There's going to be some times when you really have to question humanity and what in the world. But then I saw so many times that you saw where somebody could have helped him, or somebody could have stopped him. I think he literally wanted to get caught.
Right.
And just, somebody out here catch me so I won't do this again.
Sure. Okay, let's talk about some lighter fare.
All right, lighter fare. What do we got? We got a comedy or something thrown in here?
I was really lighter. I don't think it's that much lighter. Let me just say right now, I know I mentioned Cobra Kai in the last episode and it hadn't come out yet. Awesome. I burned through it in 3 days, Tim. I ate it up. I devoured it, and I loved every minute of it. So, I want to... Please bring on more Cobra Kai. As much Cobra Kai as you can.
Right. Just keep making them.
That's right.
Keep coming up with stories, son. Keep bringing up... This is the guy he fought the third time, the first guy that he defeated, and all of a sudden, I don't care. Exactly. The writing is so good, and it's so fun.
Just keep making them, and I'll keep watching them. It was awesome. Let's talk about a couple of sad things. Thor: Love and Thunder. So this was very interesting.
Okay.
This is the new Thor movie.
Thor movie, yeah.
It's on Disney Plus. The Thor series is typically very funny.
Yeah.
This one was not as funny. It was kind of sad, and it rubbed me differently. There are some funny times, but the overall tone is weirdly sad.
Well, you expect it to be kind of funny, dark humor, but
and there was some of that. There was some of that, but it just overall the whole thing was kind of sad.
Okay.
It's so.
Okay.
Like I'm here.
You get there. Okay.
Yeah, or whatever.
All right.
You want to say, like middle of the road. The last one was way better. Ragnarok was fantastic.
Okay.
Dark World was the worst of all of them, and the original Thor. So I would probably put the original Thor even above this one, like as far as enjoyment level. So, I mean, this is better than Dark World, not as good as the original Thor.
Okay.
So just to give you an idea. it's worth a watch. And if you're a Thor fan, you've seen the rest of them, you should watch it. But don't go out of your way to watch it. If you've got Disney Plus, give it a peek. Something else that was kind of meh. Let's talk about that. The Resort on Peacock. Have you heard of The Resort?
I have not heard of it. What's
it's about this couple that goes on a retreat, like for their anniversary, to this like far off island, and they discover a murder that took place like 30 years earlier, and so there's flashbacks. They're trying to figure out what happened.
Okay.
These people disappeared, not a murder.
Okay.
These people disappeared, and so they're on their honeymoon. They're having some relationship problems, so it kind of goes back and forth between them trying to figure out what happened 30 years ago, dealing with their marriage, and then what these two young people were going through at the, what happened to them. And it's weird, and I wouldn't recommend it either. I would put it straight in the middle.
Okay.
So, I know, I'm terrible. It's like I watch all this stuff. It's like I'm wasting my time. But me and my wife watched it together. I mean, Tim, it's produced by the guy who did Mr. Robot and Homecoming. And I can't think of his name at the moment. But it has that same kind of feel to it. So if you don't
thought it would be good.
Right, exactly. But I can't think of his name. Golly, I should know it. But it's different, and the story overall is very convoluted and not great.
Okay.
So I wouldn't recommend it. It's on Peacock. You can give it a go if you want to, but overall, not great.
But you did see something I want to see. Reboot.
Okay, let's talk about Reboot.
Reboot.
Like it.
Okay.
Funny. Do you like do you like Modern Family? Because it's basically, so the writers of Modern Family, same writers.
Okay.
And they bring in Paul Gleiser's in it, Tim.
Okay.
And along with a whole bunch of other like sitcom alums, and then some actors that you'll recognize are in there. It's very good. So Reboot is fun. It's funny. It's great.
Okay.
So highly recommend Reboot. And those episodes are being released weekly. The first 3 episodes went up. I think they're on episode 6 now.
Okay.
So watch Reboot. It's good. Reboot, just I should tell what it's about. It's about them reviving an old sitcom for modern times.
Okay.
And so this woman pitches this sitcom revival, and they bring the original cast back. And it's really, you're getting a behind the scenes look at how they're making the new version of the sitcom. That's what you're doing. It's fun. It's funny. So watched one last night.
Which is not uncommon what they've been doing lately.
Exactly.
Right?
But it's kind of, it's aware of what it is. You know what I'm saying? And it's like Modern Family in that way. So it's kind of like a reality show about running a sitcom, really.
Gotcha.
So it's good. Andor. Okay, do you know what Andor is?
Yes.
Okay, Andor follows I forget his first name, Andor from Rogue One. If you saw Rogue One, the guy that was in that, it's kind of his prequel.
Okay.
So it took me forever to get to the first episode. I have not moved on to the second episode. It seems like a slow
going really
ride.
slow.
Yeah, it goes really slow.
Okay.
I've heard it's worth the journey. Like the payoffs so far have been really good,
Okay.
but I'm slogging my way through it.
All right.
And so right now I don't have enough information to tell you should watch it or not. I will get through it because I'm a Star Wars fan. That's what I do. So we will get through it. Something I didn't put on here, She-Hulk, you should definitely be watching.
Okay.
It is funny.
I've been wanting to see that.
Fourth wall breaking funny.
Okay.
You should be watching She-Hulk.
All right.
So no Andor spoilers. Waiting to see it with my son. I'm not gonna spoil anything because I've only seen the first episode. So
Okay.
I mean, I fall asleep in it. It's dark and it's brooding.
Okay.
It's almost like episodes of Batman.
You're just gonna have to give it some time.
Yeah, I will get through it. I promise. She-Hulk is funny though, Tim.
Okay.
Stargirl is back. I
Okay.
like Stargirl a lot. It's got Luke Wilson in it, and Amy Smart and a whole bunch of other great actors in it. It's really good. I like, of all of the CW superhero stuff, Stargirl may be my favorite.
Oh,
so I really like Stargirl a lot.
Okay.
We're watching Lego Masters on Fox again, which is really great. I started watching and tried to finish it last night so I could talk about it today, but I did not. But I think I got 30 more minutes, and I think I'm just going to give it a recommend because it was so much fun. Honor Society on Paramount Plus.
Oh, okay.
It is and it has a lot in common with She-Hulk, actually. It's about a girl who, it's her senior year of high school, and she talks to the camera throughout most of the show, which is something that I love that. Like when characters actually talk to the camera, that fourth wall breaking. I love that. She-Hulk's the same way.
Like
but
Office.
basically, she has a whole plan. Like, she's number 4. She's trying to get into Harvard, and she wants to be in the number 1 position, but she's number 4. And so she comes up with an elaborate plan to sabotage the other 3. And she talks to the camera the whole time about her elaborate plan. So, I mean, it's really funny.
Could be funny.
So, we were talking about things that are funny. I feel like everything's been depressing.
We got to end on a light note.
Honor Society on Paramount Plus Plus is funny. It's a Paramount Plus original, so you have to have Paramount Plus to watch it. But it's really good. Honor Society. I've got 30 more minutes. It's a movie, and I've loved it all so far, and I think I'm gonna like the rest of it too. So don't know how it's gonna end. So that's always fun too. Okay, I'm done. All right. Done with everything? Anything else?
I think so.
There's so much more we can watch. Abbott Elementary, you should be watching.
Abbott Elementary.
That is a good show. Abbott Elementary, you should be watching.
I've seen the previews to that. That looks kind of good.
You should be watching it. It's fantastic. Abbott Elementary is really funny. You can watch the first season, I think, on HBO Max and Hulu.
I saw the movie last night. I can't think of the guy. Where his wife is kidnapped. He goes. They're having a fight.
Taken.
No. It's a brand new movie with what's his name? Somebody in the chat room will say is, and he goes to a gas station. His wife and him are having problems.
Okay, I've heard this one.
And then
I think I almost watched this.
And then she gets kidnapped.
Right.
That was actually that was pretty good.
You can't remember the name of it?
I can't remember the name of it. It's brand new on Netflix. It's in the top 10.
Yeah, I think
movies.
I think I put it on my like.
It was worth watching.
Let's see what we got here. She-Hulk's growing on me. Delusional says, I think She-Hulk was breaking the fourth wall before Deadpool. Yeah, She-Hulk is really good. It is funny, and they bring like all these characters out from like random characters from all over the place. It's crazy.
That's funny.
It's really good, and Mark Ruffalo's in it for a little bit as the Hulk. Because it's MCU.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, it's really good. It's really good. Golly, there's so much good stuff right now. I have my tickets to go see Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
I've got my tickets right
already.
Now. Going to see it. So it doesn't come out till November 11th.
Okay. And you've already got tickets. That's nice.
I want to see it. So I won't be able to talk about that on the next episode even. Yeah. I have to wait till the next one. So happy Halloween, everybody. I bought all my Halloween candy, Tim.
Yeah.
Enough for 500 trick-or-treaters.
Okay.
We get 400.
I was going to say, you usually get a big group over here.
We get 400. Now, it's a Monday night, so maybe a light turnout. I may be stuck with a lot of candy. But hopefully it won't rain. Candy. So, but let's see. Right. Delusional also says Samaritan on Prime Video. So I got halfway through Samaritan with, it's got, what's his name in it? Golly, why can't I not think? Rocky Balboa.
Sylvester Stallone. Okay, yeah, that looked kind of interesting.
I got halfway through it, and I have not finished it.
Okay.
So it was very by the book. Delusional said it was pretty good. I mean, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
I mean, I have not finished it. Okay, does that tell you? That probably tells you right there what I kind of thought of it so far. So, if I'll go back and finish it at some point, but
You're
too
right.
much to watch.
You're right. There's so many platforms now, and it's like, remember you ever watch cable TV? I mean, very rare.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Abbott Elementary is on ABC, but like, are you watching
but you watch it on Hulu.
Yeah, you watch it on Hulu, right? Exactly. It's like I don't watch my cable anymore. I watch my cable for sports, and that's about it.
Exactly. It's weird though.
It is weird. I agree.
There's so much.
There's another show. There's another show that I'm thinking of too that I know we're watching every week, and I can't even think of the name of it. There's so many shows. I can't keep up with all the freaking shows. So.
Me either.
But I mean, I'm glad in a way. So, but here just one more. I'm gonna look real quick because now I'm curious.
Now you're bugging.
I'm like, there's something else I know I'm forgetting, and
I was gonna say
there's like at least one more. So, the new Mighty Ducks.
Okay.
The Mighty Ducks show on Disney Plus. Like I have that on my list too, and I still haven't watched it. And I like the first season of that. Golly, there's so many things. So, let's see. Yeah, Samaritan has a twist at the end. Okay, so maybe I do need to finish it then. I did not realize it had a twist at the end. YouTube Punk says he finished Sandman and liked it. Do you know Sandman?
I have seen Sandman.
What'd you think?
I have not watched it yet.
Okay,
I've just seen the previews, yeah.
There's literally too much to watch right now. Like, my DVR is getting worn out. You know what I'm saying? And like all my apps, I mean, they're all over the place. So, but anyway.
I'm trying to find the name of that show.
So, I'll summarize real quick.
Lots to do.
Thor Love and Thunder you can skip if you want. The Resort definitely skip. Reboot you need to watch. Andor was okay so far, maybe. Stargirl you should watch. Lego Masters you should watch. Cobra Kai you just need to freaking just binge tonight.
Right.
Let's see. Dahmer's go for Tim. I don't know if it's going to be a go for me. Elvis, Mike, and Facing Nolan were all good. And Honor Society you should definitely pick up on Paramount Plus. So I think that'll wrap it up for the after show at this point. Is there anything else you want to say, Tim?
Don't watch Dahmer with your kids, but if you can stomach it, I think it is. It's kind of like one of those things. It's hard to watch, but I think you should watch it. I think we should recognize where we are as a society even now.
Yeah.
And it was so sad when the cops would not help and knew something was going on, and they're like, whatever. They just didn't care. In fact, 2 cops if you know how the story starts where a 14-year-old boy gets away from him and goes and he's drugged. He drugs all of his victims, by the way. And so, and the cops get him and take him back to him. That's how that guy, if you don't know the story, that's the 14-year-old kid. The cops took them back to Dahmer.
Yeah. Crazy.
The last they saw him. So,
anyway, Joe,
crazy.
And I think we'll end on this. Spoiler, Vader is Luke's father, Tim.
That's true.
Golly, guys, I mean, I think that's spoiler.
Now we know the
golly, how am I ever going to watch Star Wars now? I think there's a limitation on spoilers, like, especially, I think it's at least a year on spoilers. Like, if you, you can do it, I think, if you say spoiler alert up front. We've done that with a couple of them, Tim. But, look, if the movie's been out a year and you haven't seen it yet, you're not going to watch it. You're not going to watch it.
Don't listen to us anyway. We spoil everything.
Exactly. So we didn't spoil anything tonight. But
have a good night,
we hope that you have a happy Halloween. You go give lots of candy to trick-or-treaters. Here's the thing, Tim. There's only one night a year where people come to your door and ask for candy or ask for anything.
Load them up.
Load them up.
No matter the age.
Tim, you know what I do?
You know
full-size bars, right?
Yep.
Full-size bars. Don't cheap out. Don't cheap out on the electrical tape. Don't cheap out on the Halloween candy. You guys do this. Okay. Night, everybody. Great to see you. We're out. I'm tired.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.